Chapter 5872. Linny didn't want to talk to this idiot at all. He still looked up at the starry sky. If he wasn't on the ancient warship, maybe he could kill this guy directly. Zheng Tianqing didn't seem to have any awareness. He came over and sneered. What's wrong? Did you really fail? Or do you want to use the failure as an excuse to swallow the elixirs entrusted to you by others? Linny turned his head to look at Zheng Tianqing impatiently and said faintly, Who are you? Do I know you well? Can you get out of the way quietly? Zheng Tianqing's face stiffened. Then he thought of something and laughed. I poked your sore spot. So you became angry out of shame? I thought you were a great alchemist. Not only can you refine elixirs continuously, but you can also guarantee a very high success rate. It seems that it was all an illusion you pretended to be. In the end, you just want to take the opportunity to get some elixirs, right? Speaking of this, Zheng Tianqing was almost sure of his guess. Linny definitely failed in alchemy. Now he wanted to use words to squeeze Linny. Maybe his Zheng family could still get back their losses. Hey Master Lin, tell me how many people are you going to cheat this time? I heard that those people went to you because of your high success rate. If you didn't complete any of them, it would be too embarrassing, right? How about it? Why don't you beg this young master to come forward and put in a good word for you? Maybe he won't bother with you then? Zheng Tianqing was extremely proud in his heart, and his mouth kept mocking Xiao Chun. Linny glanced at Zheng Tianqing faintly. He felt a little strange in his heart. Those people who asked him to refine elixirs shouldn't go around announcing it. Why did this idiot seem to know it like the back of his hand? If there was no trick in this, he would never believe it. But it didn't matter. Anyway, Linny made a lot of profits from these orders. Since he didn't suffer a loss, and even got a big bargain, there was no need to be calculative. Does my business have anything to do with you? If you don't have enough IQ, go back and read more books. Don't always come out and embarrass yourself. Your grandfather is already so old. You should at least give him some face. Linny said sarcastically. He felt that it was a waste of time to talk to this kind of person. So he turned around and prepared to return to his room. If he had the free time, he might as well continue to refine a batch of pills. Zheng Tianqing was furious. If he didn't know that he was no match for Lin Yi, he might have already attacked Lin Yi. Surnamed Lin, don't be too arrogant. You used the excuse of failing to concoct pills to swallow other people's spiritual herbs. This kind of thing is simply smearing the face of all alchemists. This young master will absolutely not tolerate scum like you. Just you wait. This young master will definitely let everyone see your true colors. From now on, let's see who will still ask you to concoct pills. Zheng Tianqing pointed his finger at Lin Yi and roared with righteous indignation. Unfortunately, his acting was so bad that he didn't look like an emissary of justice at all. Instead, he looked more like an angry mad dog. Idiot. Linny turned his head disdainfully and said, If I fail to concoct pills, I will naturally take out items of equal value as compensation. Do you think that your Zheng family is a scoundrel who uses failure to help others concoct pills as an excuse to make money? Who is a scoundrel? Surnamed Lin, stop right there. If you don't make things clear today, don't even think about leaving. Zheng Tianqing wanted to stop Lin Yi. In fact, when he heard that Lin Yi would compensate with items of equal value, he was already satisfied. However, this involved the reputation of the Zheng family, so he still had to fight for it. Otherwise, if others heard it, they would really think that the Zheng family had done something bad. If he just said it, Lin Yi wouldn't care about him. However, when this guy heard that Lin Yi would compensate him, he got carried away and became a little muddle-headed. He actually subconsciously wanted to stop Lin Yi, and the result was tragic. Lin Yi just waved his hand and opened Zheng Tianqing's outstretched palm. He didn't use much strength, but this guy flew out with a whoosh. When the palm hit back, it happened to hit Zheng Tianqing's own mouth. Several big teeth fell out of his mouth. The gap between the two sides' levels was too big. Lin Yi was also speechless. He just wanted to teach this guy a lesson, but he didn't expect the effect to be so exaggerated. Well, it seemed that after the improvement of his strength, his control had somewhat declined. He needed to practice more. Lin Yi nodded and walked back leisurely. As for Zheng Tianqing, who had been sent flying by Lin Yi's palm, He was pressed against the side of the ship, his mouth bleeding profusely. He looked at Lin Yi's back with a face full of fear. Without really fighting with him, Zheng Tianqing couldn't even imagine how big the gap between him and Lin Yi was. Now it was just a small contact, and the strength Lin Yi showed was not even the tip of the iceberg, but it had already made him feel an indelible sense of fear in his heart. The experience of being poisoned in the restaurant last time also came to his mind again. For a time, Zheng Tianqing seemed to be a little sluggish. He was dumbfounded on the spot, and didn't move for a long time. Lin Yi naturally didn't care what this guy thought in his heart. After he returned to his room, he began to practice. He didn't feel much about the passage of time. Unconsciously, Lin Yi felt that the ancient battleship's full ship announcement sounded again. Distinguished guests, in 2 hours, we will arrive at the northernmost island. Please prepare for landing. Are we arriving already? Lin Yi stood up and muttered to himself in surprise. This time, the speed was still relatively fast, but thinking that this was a fleet, he was relieved. Before, he seemed to have heard that a fleet composed of high-level ships, arranged in a special formation, would have a speed bonus. It seemed that this was not a lie. Lin Yi thought that if there was a chance in the future, he would still learn some knowledge and skills in this regard. With a ready-made teacher like this ghost, it would be a waste not to learn more things. Releasing his divine sense, he noticed that Wei Shenjin had already come to the door of his room. Lin Yi casually opened the restriction and walked out. Are you not with Miss Zhang today? Boss. Wei Shenjin's face was slightly hot. He grinned and greeted. Yuhua and her father are in the small restaurant. They will disembark in 2 hours. Should we also go and eat something first? You really like the food on this ship. Do you want to have a good meal before disembarking? Lin Yi said with a smile, not declining the offer. He touched the restrictions on the other rooms. Let's ask them if they want to go with us. Chapter 5873. Originally, when they were on the ship, they wanted to get together and have a good discussion with each other. In the end, Lin Yi was either refining pills in seclusion or cultivating in seclusion. There was really no chance for them to chat. Since there was still some time, they could eat and chat together to make up for some regrets. When they arrived at the dining hall, they saw Shang Yuhua standing up and waving to them. She and Shang Wani were already sitting at a round table waiting. It was more than enough to accommodate Lin Yi and the others. But before Lin Yi could go over, the 4 people who asked him to concoct the pills all popped out of nowhere, as if they had planned it beforehand. They had a meaningful smile on their faces as they cupped their fists and said, Master Lin, our pills are done, right? Wei Shenjin did not know the mystery, but he was very polite to the 4 people. You can come to see Master Lin later. Now we have to go eat first. As for the matter of refining pills, let's wait for Master Lin to finish eating, okay? Hong Zhong was indeed an old fox who had been in the business world for many years. He saw a clue from the expressions of the 4 people. Normal people who asked for pills would not be as arrogant as the 4 of them. So he quietly stepped forward and stood beside Lin Yi. This subconscious action also showed that Hong Zhong and Lin Yi's determination to advance and retreat together, which made Lin Yi's heart slightly warm. It was still very happy to have such a friend by his side. However, Lin Yi did not need them to worry about refining pills. Everything was under his control, so he smiled and patted Wei Shenjin's shoulder. It's okay, I'll talk to them first. You take Brother Hong and the others to sit first. I'll come in a while. Yes, boss. Then we'll go first. Wei Shenjin was absolutely obedient to Lin Yi. After immediately agreeing, he respectfully invited Hong Zhong and the others to go to Shang Yuhua's place. Hong Zhong whispered in Lin Yi's ear. Brother Lin, these guys are a little strange. Is there a problem? Don't worry, Brother Hong, there won't be a problem. Lin Yi smiled faintly, gave him a reassuring look, and signaled him to go over there first. Seeing that Lin Yi was really confident, Hong Zhong didn't say much. He really admired Lin Yi's means, so if Lin Yi said there was no problem, then there must be no problem. He didn't need to worry about anything. After Hong Zhong left, Lin Yi smiled at the 4 and said, Do the 4 of you want to find a quiet place to talk? He didn't ask why the 4 of them suddenly got together. It didn't matter. In any case, The four of them wouldn't have the chance to ask Lin Yi to refine pills for them in the future. The leading guy had a faintly discernible sarcasm in the corner of his mouth. He smiled lightly and said, "There's no need. Anyway, it's not a shameful thing. Master Lin, just tell me if you have finished refining." The news he got from Zheng Tianqing was that Lin Yi had failed the pill concoction. Since that was the case, he had to spread the news as much as possible. And a place with a lot of people like the restaurant was the most suitable place. If he wasn't worried that Lin Yi would leave first when he disembarked the ship, Zheng Tianqing might instruct these four guys to refine pills when they arrived at the extreme North Island. At that time, Lin Yi's notoriety would not only be known by these people on the ancient warship, but also by the entire extreme North Island in the shortest time. However, the effect in the restaurant wouldn't be too bad. As the saying goes, good things don't go out, evil things go 1,000 miles. This kind of shameful news spread the fastest, so Zheng Tianqing didn't continue to wait. Without waiting for Lin Yi to speak, another guy said in a lukewarm tone, "Master Lin, we heard a rumor that you will tell us that you have failed to refine pills, and then swallow our things. This shouldn't be true, right? Master Lin, these profound level 1 elixirs are extremely precious. Of course, we believe in your ability to refine pills, but if you want to keep it for yourself, it's too disgraceful. For kinds of profound level 1 elixirs, you should at least refine 2 or 3 of them, right?" The third guy also said. Before Lin Yi said anything, they had already put the hat of failure on Lin Yi's head. Lin Yi originally wanted to give them the elixir and kill them as soon as possible. They were about to reach the extreme North Island, and he didn't want to waste time with these small fries. But since they didn't even let him speak, then he might as well not say anything. Today, he wanted to see how these guys were going to deal with this. The fourth guy was also unwilling to be left out. He snorted and said, "Master Lin, you don't say anything. What do you mean? Is it true that you didn't refine a single elixir? Or is it that you succeeded in refining one or something? At least give us a definite answer." These guys' voices were getting louder and louder, as if they were afraid that others couldn't hear them. Wei Shenjin's face had already changed a little, and he suddenly stood up to teach them a lesson. Shang Wani, Kai Zhongyang, and the others also couldn't stand it anymore, so they also stood up. Most of these people on the ancient battleship knew each other, whether it was the Central Island or the North Island. Even if they hadn't seen each other, they had heard of each other. For example, these four guys who spoke were the higher-ups of several small sects and small families in the Central Island. Compared with the vice presidents of big chambers of commerce like Shang Wani and Kai Zhongyang, whether it was power or influence, they were completely not on the same level. As long as they came forward, they believed that these four guys would shut up obediently. However, Hong Zhong believed what Lin Yi said just now, so he stopped all of them and let them order the food in peace. Lest Lin Yi came over, and the food was not served yet. "You guys are really too unruly. How can you talk to Master Lin like this?" Zheng Dongjue, who had been watching the show from the side, couldn't help but walk over, seemingly to help Lin Yi, but in fact, he wanted to step on them a few more times. Master Lin's alchemy ability, who on this ancient battleship doesn't know? It's just a few profound level 1 medicinal pills. How can it be difficult for a real alchemy master like Master Lin? Stop joking. Zheng Tianqing also followed over and said with a sinister smile, "Yes, Master Lin's alchemy success rate is very high. Your medicinal pills are absolutely no problem. Now you guys are like this, what do you mean? Don't you believe in Master Lin?" This guy's teeth that had been knocked out before had completely recovered. At this level, broken hands and feet could quickly recover. With medicinal pills, not to mention a few trivial teeth, they didn't even need medicinal pills. They could just use true qi to heal themselves, and they could be put back. However, when Zheng Tianqing saw Lin Yi, those recovered teeth were still faintly painful. Lin Yi looked at Zheng Tianqing and Zheng Dongjue with a faint smile. His eyes looked like he was watching a farce, which made Zheng Tianqing feel that something was wrong. To be continued. Chapter 5874. It was a pity that he couldn't figure out what was wrong for a while. Now that things had come to this point, the arrow had to be fired. Even if he felt a little strange in his heart, Zhang Tianqing could only continue to implement the plan. Let's not talk about Master Lin's success rate. I believe that he will definitely be able to refine all of your pills. But you all know the limitations of an alchemist. He can't refine pills continuously. And in order for Master Lin to concoct the pills as quickly as possible, if he were to forcefully concoct pills continuously, some mistakes would be unavoidable. Hence, you have to be mentally prepared for the worst, which is not being able to get your pills. Zhang Tianqing's mind was racing, desperately thinking about what was wrong, but his mouth naturally took out all the words that he had prepared. Zhang Dongjue said, "An alchemist can't guarantee success in refining pills. In case of failure, there is no liability for compensation, so you can't ask Master Lin for compensation because he failed continuously, let alone say that Master Lin did this deliberately to embezzle your spirit herbs. This is really ridiculous." The leader of the four said loudly, "Since there's a taboo that a refiner can't concoct pills continuously, then Linny knows about this taboo. But he's still forcing himself to do it. Isn't that irresponsible? In addition to taking out the spirit herbs for alchemy, we also gave a large amount of alchemy fees. Now don't you have an explanation?" That's right. Who knows whether he really failed in alchemy, or he didn't refine pills at all. If he didn't do alchemy at all, and just said that the alchemy failed, how can we know whether it is true or false? Another person who cooperated tacitly said immediately. Zhang Tianqing waved his hand and said righteously, "You underestimate Master Lin too much. I heard him say before that if the people who ask him to refine pills fail, he will bear all the losses and compensate you all. What else do you have to worry about? Master Lin, am I right?" At this time, the eyes of the entire restaurant were focused here. To be more precise, they were focused on Lin Yi. As long as he said that the alchemy failed, he would immediately lose his reputation. Zhang Tianqing was extremely proud of himself. The uneasy feeling from before had long been thrown to the back of his mind. The formulation and implementation of this plan were all led by him. Although he couldn't beat Lin Yi, being able to use this method to destroy Lin Yi was also enough to make him burst with joy. The ridicule on Lin Yi's face grew more and more intense. He glanced at Zhang Tianqing and sneered. "You're asking me? Is it finally my turn to speak? I almost forgot what I was going to say just now. But you guys are really good at making fun of me. I almost forgot what I wanted to say. What a pity. Was the show over just like that? Are there any more performances?" "What do you mean by that? I'm talking business with you. Don't change the subject." The leader of the four people didn't quite understand what Lin Yi meant, but he knew that it was not a good thing. So he said with a cold face, "Young Master Zhang is exonerating you. For his sake, tell us how to compensate." At this time, Zhang Tianqing's heart was inexplicably a little flustered. He expected this kind of emotion to appear on Lin Yi. But looking at Lin Yi's calm face, there was no trace of panic. This matter was really strange. Lin Yi glanced at the guy who spoke faintly and nodded slightly. "You are from the Wu family of Zhongdao, aren't you? Not bad. It's quite vivid to play an old monkey. Hey, why is your face red? Is this a monkey's butt? Your acting skills are really amazing." The guy from the Wu family of Zhongdao suddenly became angry and roared. "Lin Yi, don't talk about it. Do you think you can delay time and get away with it? Let me tell you, it's impossible." Although he was only from a small family, he still felt embarrassed when he was humiliated in public. Anyway, Lin Yi was going to lose his reputation this time, so he had nothing to worry about. However, the next moment he was dumbfounded. A small jade bottle was thrown in front of him by Lin Yi. Because he didn't pay much attention to it, the jade bottle fell to the ground and broke into pieces. A longan-sized elixir rolled out, and a faint fragrance of elixir floated in the air. Mountain Channel Elixir of Profound Level 1. And it's a special quality Mountain Channel Elixir. A nearby diner stood up abruptly and exclaimed with rapid breathing. He didn't even care that the teacup in his hand fell to the ground. If it wasn't for the fact that this was an ancient warship, he would have snatched it. The Mountain Channel Elixir was a high-grade elixir used by giants in the mountain opening period. Its effect was to widen the width and thickness of the meridians, allowing the user to accommodate more true qi. This kind of elixir did not directly increase one's cultivation level and strength. However, in a battle, it could allow an opponent of the same cultivation level to smoothly use more true qi. Therefore, the mountain channel elixir was not inferior to elixirs that could directly increase one's cultivation level and strength. Unfortunately, this kind of elixir could only be taken once in the entire mountain opening period. There would be no effect if it was taken more. Therefore, the value of this special quality mountain channel elixir was even more indescribable. Because it could only be taken once, it was not an exaggeration to say that a special quality mountain channel elixir could be sold for 100 times more than a low-quality mountain channel elixir at an auction. This is the mountain channel elixir that you asked me to refine. Now that the transaction is over, the Wu family of Middle Island will be listed as unwelcome in Tiandan Pavilion. I will no longer accept any elixir refining commission from anyone related to the Wu family of Middle Island. Lin Yi announced this decision expressionlessly. No one would think that he had done anything wrong. If he hadn't refined the elixir, his previous behavior would still be reasonable. However, not only had Lin Yi completed the commission, but it was also a special quality elixir. Therefore, it was reasonable for him to ask for additional fees. It was too lenient to just blacklist the Wu family to express his anger. The face of the guy from the Wu family of Middle Island instantly turned pale. It was as if an invisible hand was strangling his throat. He couldn't even say a word. Even the head of the Wu family would not be able to bear the consequences of offending a high-rank alchemist who could refine a special-grade mountain channel pill, let alone a high-ranking member of the Wu family. After all, the Wu family would not be able to bear the consequences. Chapter 5875. Shang Wani also said, the Universal Chamber of Commerce also agrees with Vice President Hong's proposal. 5 Elements Commerce also agrees. Kai Zhongyang, of course, would not be left behind. In just a breath's time, the third largest Chamber of Commerce in Middle Island announced their decision to advance and retreat with Tiandan Pavilion, pushing the Wu family into an endless abyss. The guy from the Wu family of Middle Island was already as pale as a sheet. He wanted to kill himself in front of Lin Yi and beg him to let the Wu family of Middle Island go. Hong Zhong, what right do you have to make such a decision on behalf of the Hong Chamber of Commerce? What a joke. I'm the one in charge of the Hong Chamber of Commerce here. Wei Jiating suddenly jumped out and shouted angrily. They were both vice presidents, but Wei Jiating came from the headquarters, while Hong Zhong was only the shopkeeper of the North Island branch. It was reasonable for him to say this. Unfortunately, when it came to Lin Yi, Hong Zhong would never back down. Moreover, Wei Jiating's blatant objection was equivalent to completely exposing the truth of the internal strife of the Hong Chamber of Commerce in front of so many people. It was also a huge blow to the reputation of the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Hong Zhong's expression turned cold. Without any nonsense, he directly flashed and appeared in front of Wei Jiating like a ghost. He raised his hand and slapped him. With a crisp slap, Wei Jiating's face was slapped to the side, turning more than 90 degrees. Apart from the clear palm print, his face was also full of shock and disbelief. He never thought that Hong Zhong would hit him directly without saying anything. What was even more terrifying was that he clearly saw Hong Zhong's attack. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't dodge it. Or rather, he couldn't even make a move to dodge. Hong Zhong's slap was not too heavy, but it smashed Wei Jiating's face into pieces. He didn't dare to react. All along, he had thought that his strength should be above Hong Zhong's. Only now did he clearly realize that even two Wei Jiating combined might not be Hong Zhong's match. Remember, my surname is Hong, not yours. If you want to discredit the Hong Chamber of Commerce, you can continue to try. Hong Zhong's cold voice rang in Wei Jiating's ears. The murderous intent in his voice made him shudder. However, when he looked up, Hong Zhong had already returned to his seat, as if nothing had happened. After this incident, Wei Jiating had no face to continue staying there. He snorted coldly and turned to leave. The matter of the Hong Chamber of Commerce was settled. Lin Yi didn't expect Hong Zhong to suddenly show his thunderous means. But he also understood that although this brother was not a direct descendant of the Hong family, he was still a member of the Hong family. The small conflicts in the North Island were much more serious than the situation just now, but because it happened in his own family, he didn't want to lose his temper at all. This time, however, he had embarrassed the Hong Chamber of Commerce in public. He had already touched Hong Zhong's bottom line. That was why Wei Jiading was in a tragedy. The people in the restaurant didn't pay much attention to Hong Zhong at first, but after this little episode, there were obviously more people paying attention to Hong Zhong. However, Linny didn't care about these things. He continued to take out 3 jade bottles and threw them to the other 3. These are your elixirs. Check them yourself. After the 3 subconsciously caught the jade bottles, Linny continued. The transaction is over. Like the Wu family, the 3 of you are also listed as unwelcome customers of Tiandan Pavilion. Anyone related to you is on my list of refusing alchemy. Hong Zhong and the others also expressed the same position. These 3 guys were also completely dumbfounded. Originally, they only agreed to help Zheng Dongsheng for some small benefits. They didn't expect to offend Lin Yi, a high-level alchemist, and cause such big trouble for their respective families. It was a sin that could not be redeemed, even if they died 100 times. Pill Hall will also refuse any cooperation with these 4 families. Li Zhaoyi suddenly came in outside the door, and as soon as he spoke, he represented the Pill Hall to support Lin Yi, which made him a little puzzled. This matter was originally caused by Zheng Dongjue and the others. Li Zhaoyi openly supported him. Wasn't it obvious that he was going against the Zheng family? Lin Yi glanced at the people of the Zheng family curiously, but found that apart from their pale faces, they actually had no intention of refuting. When the 4 guys heard Li Zhaoyi's decision, they fell to the ground weakly and looked at Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing miserably. Unfortunately, these 2 guys had hearts of stone. They would never speak for them at this time. Li Zhaoyi glanced at Zheng Dongjue lightly and said, Deputy Hall Master Zheng, is there any problem with my decision? These 4 people humiliated us alchemists, which is equivalent to humiliating the entire Pill Hall. I think this kind of people is really not qualified to cooperate with the Pill Hall, right? Yes, Master Li Zhaoyi is right. Zheng Dongjue gritted his teeth and nodded, and barely squeezed out an ugly smile. Lin Yi nodded gently at Li Zhaoyi, thanking her for speaking up for justice, but that was all. Anyway, it was the same without her. Li Zhaoyi hesitated for a moment, but still nodded slightly in response. Unfortunately, when she nodded, Lin Yi had already turned and walked towards Wei Shinjin and the others. Was this a waste of expression? Looking at the elixirs in the hands of the 4 people on the ground, although 3 of the bottles were only slightly opened, Li Zhaoyi could be sure that they were all special quality elixirs, which made her more and more curious about Lin Yi. To be able to refine yin and yang pill alone, and be able to continuously refine special quality elixirs in a short period of time. Could this Lin Yi really be the disciple of the pill god? But why had she never heard of it before? Taking a deep look at Lin Yi's back, Li Zhaoyi did not stay, but turned and walked out of the restaurant, as if she had lost interest in eating. Zheng Dongjue glared at Zheng Tianqing fiercely. He thought it was a perfect plan, but it turned out to be an idiot who thought he was infallible. Now it was not an exaggeration to say that he had suffered a double loss. If it wasn't for Zheng Tianqing's final vow that Lin Yi would definitely fail in alchemy, the 4 guys would not have been so persistent. They did not even give Lin Yi a chance to speak, which led to them being killed by the special quality elixirs in the end. Now that the 4 had suffered such a big loss, if Zheng Dongjue did not take out something to compensate them, they might reveal the whole thing. Chapter 5876. If he didn't do this, he would have to bear all the losses this time. Those spiritual grasses and spiritual jades made Zheng Dongjue's heart ache when he thought about it. Lin Yi knew that the 2 from the Zheng family must be behind these 4 people, but he got some benefits, so he didn't care too much about it. In addition, Li Zhaoyi also expressed her support for him. If he continued to pursue the Zheng family, it would inevitably involve the Dan Hall, so temporarily letting it go was the best choice. Of course, although he didn't suffer a loss, Lin Yi still remembered this grudge. If there was a chance in the future, naturally, he would get back at them. In the end, this matter was left unsettled. The most unlucky ones were those 4 guys. They caused so much trouble for their family for no reason. Not only did Lenny not suffer any losses, but he also made a lot of money from it. He also showed his strength and influence in front of many dignitaries in the central and northern islands. From now on, whether it was the brothers in Tiandam Pavilion or Blue Cloud Pavilion, no one would dare to provoke them casually. 2 hours later, the fleet arrived at the northern island on time. Lenny didn't rush to disembark, but chatted with Okuda. These people would still take his warship on the way back, so he would also stay here until the auction was over. However, Okuda wouldn't waste his time. When he went to North Island, he also collected a lot of goods and brought them back to sell. Without such trade, they wouldn't be able to support the growing fleet. If they wanted to continue to develop, they definitely wouldn't be able to just transport goods for people. Brother Okuda, you said that before the official auction, there will be a few small trade fairs similar to the ones you held before? Lenny asked with great interest. If he could get ghost cicada wings from this kind of trade fairs, it couldn't be better. Okuda nodded and said with a smile, "That's right. The thing I did on the ship was actually learned from this kind of trade fairs. As long as it's a large-scale auction, there will always be a few small trade fairs like this before the start. If Brother Lin is interested, I can help you get a few entry spots." With Okuda's wealth and influence, those small trade fairs would probably send him entry spots in advance. Getting a few more spots wouldn't be a problem at all. And Lin, he was actually a person with a very high status. Maybe someone would take the initiative to send entry spots to him. If that was really the case, it would save Okuda a lot of trouble. While they were talking, Kai Zhongyang and Shang Wani walked over together. First, they greeted Okuda, then said to Lin Yi, "Brother Lin, we have to go find the customer who ordered the Yangji grass to explain the situation. You go back to the reservation and wait for us at the inn." Lin Yi nodded, then asked, "If we don't have it, won't be to the Yangji grass. How about I go with you guys? With more people, we might be able to put in a few good words. That way, the other party won't make things too difficult for you guys." Kai Zhongyang bitterly smiled and shook his head. "That's not necessary. It's not that easy to have more people there. Brother Lin, you should take them to the inn first. I don't think we'll need too much time to go back." Lin Yi nodded and didn't ask any more questions. If Kai Zhongyang could tell him, he definitely wouldn't hide anything. Since he didn't want to explain in detail, it meant that this matter wasn't suitable for too many people to know. Of course, Lin Yi wouldn't force Kai Zhongyang. If that's the case, then Brother Kai and Brother Shang, you two be careful. If you need help, come find me at any time. Lin Yi wasn't worried that the two of them would be in danger. The security of the far north island was very good. Whoever dared to make a move here must be tired of living. However, if the customer who reserved the Yangji grass wanted to make things difficult for Kai Zhongyang, it wouldn't be easy to deal with. After all, he was in the wrong first, so it wouldn't be good for Lin Yi to intervene. After the two agreed, they cupped their fists together and quickly left the ancient warship. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the distance. Seeing that most of the people on the ancient warship had left, Lin Yi bid farewell to Okuda and said, "Brother Okuda, I'll also leave the warship first. If there's anything, you know where to find me." "All right, I'll send you the entry quota for the trade fair as soon as possible. Be careful. If you're not used to living down there, you can just come back here. You're our honorary vice captain," Okuda said with a laugh. At the same time, he reached out and patted Lin Yi's shoulder. Of course," Lin Yi replied with a smile. After chatting for a while, he disembarked the warship with Wei Xinjin and Shang Yuhua. As for Hong Zhong, Hou Guanqi and the others, they had already left. They all had their own factions. Since they had just arrived at the far north island, they needed to settle down first. After a while, Lin Yi and the other two followed the people from Five Elements Commerce and stayed in a relatively high-class inn. Kai Zhongyang directly booked a courtyard that was big enough for all of them to stay in. The courtyard could also be used to store some less important and relatively crude goods. During the auction, the rent of the inns in the far north island was very expensive. Moreover, it was very difficult to stay in the inn on the spot. Most of the inns had to be booked. For example, The courtyard that Kai Zhongyang booked had a daily rent of 50,000 spirit jades. There were still a few days before the auction started. When the auction ended, just the rent alone would have to be paid hundreds of thousands of spirit jades. If one wasn't rich and powerful, it would be difficult to even find a place to stay. Not long after Lin Yi and the others chose their own rooms, Kai Zhongyang and Shang Wani came back. Looking at their expressions, it seemed that they weren't able to solve the problem. "Brother Kai, how was it?" Lin Yi came out and asked. If he wanted to help, he needed to know the situation first. Kai Zhongyang shook his head and said, "This time, I didn't even see the person. He said that he wasn't at home. Let's wait until tomorrow. Let's settle down first." It turned out that they didn't even see the person. No wonder. Lin Yi also wanted to help, but he couldn't. He could only casually comfort Kai Zhongyang and let it go. Shang Wani and Kai Zhongyang made an appointment to go together again tomorrow. Then they went back to the place where the Universal Chamber of Commerce lived with Shang Yuhua. They had just arrived here, so there were still a lot of things to do. After Lin Yi chose a room, he went out with Wei Shenjin. He couldn't interfere with the matters of Five Elements commerce. Anyway, there was nothing to settle down, so he simply went to the business street of the far north island to take a look. Chapter 5877. Although Wei Shenjin was a genius disciple of the Middle Island's Snow Sword School, he didn't have the opportunity to come to the extreme North Island. This time, it could be considered as an eye-opener. "Boss, this extreme North Island is really a good place. Although the area is a bit small, it's not an exaggeration to say that it's a small place, but the spirit chi is a lot denser than the Middle Island." Wei Shenjin walked beside Lin Yi and exclaimed in admiration. Unfortunately, Shang Yuhua went back with her father. Otherwise, it would be very good to stroll around together. Lin Yi slightly smiled and said, "It's because the area is small that it can maintain its current transcendent position. If the area was as big as the North Island, it would have already been divided by some sections." Wei Shenjin nodded and said, "That's true. If the island was a bit bigger, perhaps it wouldn't have such a position now. Speaking of which, the extreme North Island seems to be controlled by a family, right? Although this family's reputation is not prominent, it should be an extremely powerful family. Otherwise, the extreme North Island would have already changed owners. I heard that the extreme North Island's ruler is the Li family. Last time I came here, I didn't see anyone from their family. The one who came was Li family's steward Song. This time, the level of the auction is a lot higher. Perhaps there will be someone from the Li family to host it." Lin Yi casually guessed. In fact, he didn't care whether or not there would be someone from the Li family to host it. While talking, the two of them had already arrived at the only chamber of commerce in the extreme North Island. The name was also very simple. It was called the Extreme North Chamber of Commerce. Two young and beautiful girls stood at the door. When they saw the guests, they respectfully bowed and greeted them with a sweet voice. "Welcome to the Extreme North Chamber of Commerce. How can I help you?" One of the girls asked with a smile. The last time Lin Yi came to the extreme North Island, he didn't have a chance to stroll around. Most of the time was used for alchemy. Therefore, this was also the first time he came to the extreme North Chamber of Commerce. With such two beautiful girls welcoming the guests, at least his impression was not bad. Wei Shenjin suddenly felt a little uneasy in front of the two young and beautiful girls. Although he had a failed marriage and was developing well with Shang Yuhua, he still felt a little flustered when he saw beautiful girls. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "We're just looking around." "Okay, if there is anything you need, please call us at any time. We will definitely come as soon as possible." The girl still maintained her sweet smile as she bowed and invited Lin Yi and the girl into the extreme North Chamber of Commerce. As soon as he entered the door, the first thing he saw was not the display of the goods, but a distribution map. It was very similar to the shopping malls in the secular world. It could be seen that the people of the extreme North Chamber of Commerce were really business-minded. Lin Yi glanced at it slightly. There were a total of 5 floors where the goods were sold. The first floor sold weapons and armor props. The second floor sold spirit grass and spirit fruit. The third floor sold casting materials. The fourth floor sold medicinal pills. The fifth floor sold books and secret manuals of martial arts, array Dao, alchemy Dao, tools Dao, and so on. Judging from the number of people on the first floor, the business here was still very good. For things like weapons and armor, Lenny didn't have much interest. The auction was coming. The really good weapons and armor props would be taken to the auction. It was impossible to sell them here. Therefore, he took Wei Shenjin directly to the second floor. This extreme North Chamber of Commerce had restrictions on divine sense. Therefore, it was impossible for Lin Yi to use divine sense to sweep the entire building, unless he used divine sense attack skills to tear these restrictions. However, that would be tantamount to completely falling out with the extreme North Chamber of Commerce. There was no enmity between them. Lin Yi wouldn't do such a brainless thing. Lin Yi was still somewhat interested in the spirit grass and spirit fruit on the second floor. He looked at it slightly, but there was nothing that he was in urgent need of. Boss, this extreme North Chamber of Commerce is really worthy of its reputation. Look, there is even a piece of Thunder Xian Rot Tan. Wei Shenjin lowered his voice and said with great excitement. Thunder Xian Rot Tan was simply priceless in other places. He didn't expect that the extreme North Chamber of Commerce would just casually display it outside for sale. Lin Yi had a lot of them, and they were no longer of much use to him, so he subconsciously ignored them. But Wei Shenjin was different. He hadn't reached the profound ascension stage. It would be strange if he wasn't excited when he saw the Thunder Xian Rot Tan. Lin Yi faintly smiled and said, "You want to buy the Thunder Xian Rot Tan? The quality of that piece is not good. When you are about to advance to the profound ascension stage, I will give you a Thunder Xian pill. So don't worry about that piece of Thunder Xian Rot Tan." Wei Shenjin was suddenly overjoyed. Thinking about it, the boss was a profound level 1, or even profound level 2 alchemy master. Refining the Thunder Xian pill was easy. He also vaguely knew that Lin Yi boss had a Thunder Xian pill. Since the boss said so, there must be no problem. At this time, a young man came up from the first floor. After hearing Lin Yi's words, he suddenly sneered. This extreme North Island really has a lot of nouveau riche bumpkins. They actually said that the Thunder Xian Rot Tan is not good, and directly gave a Thunder Xian pill. Lin Yi faintly glanced at the young man. He didn't want to pay attention to him. It doesn't matter what other people think or say, as long as they don't affect Lin Yi. Wei Shenjin was grateful to Lin Yi in his heart. When he heard this, he glared and said, "It's not your fault that you are ignorant. No one will blame you even if you come out and make a fool of yourself. It's just that you casually fart like this. Don't you think it's too much to poison innocent people? You want to die." The young man's face froze. At the same time, his eyes flashed a sharp killing intent. And a middle-aged man who followed behind him quickly pulled his arm and whispered, "Young master, we are also newcomers. There is no need to make enemies with people. Let's go back and investigate their background first." Lin Yi casually glanced at the two people. He heard the middle-aged man's whisper clearly. However, he was too lazy to care. If they really wanted to come and court death, then he would help them. "Wei Shenjin, let's go up. Don't waste time with these boring people here," Lin Yi said faintly and walked to the third floor. After Wei Shenjin snorted, he didn't continue to say anything. He turned around and followed Lin Yi. The young man looked at them coldly as they went upstairs, then said to the middle-aged man with dissatisfaction, "Uncle Li, you are too cautious. You have to investigate everyone's background first before you meet them. Do you think we are afraid of anyone?" Chapter 5878. The young man snorted twice and muttered in a low voice, "You only know how to use my father to suppress me. I don't care. Those two brats just now were too arrogant. Uncle Li, quickly find someone to inquire about their background. As long as they are not people you can't provoke, just kill them directly." Uncle Li agreed, and was about to say something when three people came up the stairs. The young man looked at them casually and paused. "Zheng Tianqing, why are you here?" The three who came later were Zheng Dongsheng, Zheng Dongjue, and Zheng Tianqing. Hearing his name, he raised his head happily. "Isn't this Master Qian? What a coincidence to actually meet you on the extreme North Island." Zheng Tianqing quickly walked 2 steps ahead of his grandpa and second grandpa. standing in front of the young man, and cupped his fists respectfully. Master Qian, Mr. Li, it's been a while, how have you been? Not bad, I heard you went to Zhongdao, right? How is it? Is it okay? The young man, young Master Qian, waved his hand carelessly and asked casually. Zheng Dongxing and Zheng Dongjue came over and asked Zheng Tianqing with a smile. Tianqing, these two are? Master Qian, Mr. Li, let me introduce you. Zheng Tianqing pointed at Zheng Dongxing with a face full of smiles. This is my grandpa Zheng Dongxing. This is my second grandpa Zheng Dongjue, the vice head of Zhongdao's elixir hall. Master Qian didn't have much of a reaction, but Uncle Li's face turned serious as he cupped his fists. Zhongdao's elixir hall, the one Zhang Liju created? Zheng Dongjue was a bit annoyed. He wanted to take the position of the head of the elixir hall, but Zhang Liju was like a mountain on top of his head. Whenever someone mentioned elixir hall, the first person they thought of was Zhang Liju. As for Zheng Dongjue, who was that? Never heard of it. Uncle Li's reaction was a perfect example of Liju's influence. Zheng Dongxing was a famous elixir refiner in Dongzhou, but he didn't care at all. If it weren't for the elixir hall, he'd probably just give them a nod of greeting and be done with it. Zheng Tianqing didn't care about his second grandpa's thoughts at all. He smiled and nodded. Yes, Mr. Li has heard of it? My second grandpa is the vice head of the elixir god Zhang Liju's elixir hall, and he's one of the top people in Zhongdao. At this point, Zheng Tianqing turned to his two grandfathers and said, This is young Master Qian Xiaodong, a genius disciple of Xixing Academy in the East Continent. He is also the young master of Rapid City. Mr. Li is the guest elder of Rapid City. He was entrusted by the master to take care of young Master Qian. Zheng Dongxing was originally a little dissatisfied. These two people didn't react at all when they heard his name. Now he knew that they seemed to have such a great background. He immediately smiled and lowered his posture. So it's young Master Qian and Mr. Li. It's an honor to meet you. West Star Academy had a great reputation in the East Continent, and was even stronger than the yellow-ranked Morning Star Cultivator Academy that Zheng Dongxing was originally from. However, its geographical location was rather remote, and it was in a completely different direction from the Morning Star Academy, so there wasn't much interaction. Rapid City was right next to Xixing Academy, and this city was also one of the stronger cities in the East Continent. Zheng Dongxing of course had heard of it before. Naturally, he wanted to curry favor with Qian Xiaodong. If he could get on good terms with these two, he might be able to return to the East Continent. Qian Xiaodong nodded to Zheng Dongxing casually and said, It's an honor to meet you. He then said to Zheng Tianqing, When are you going back to the East Continent, kid? Without you, we brothers don't have much fun. What do you think? Do you want to go back with me after the auction? Zheng Tianqing was flattered and bowed. Young Master Qian, you really think too highly of me. But after the auction, I still have some things to take care of in Zhongdao, so I won't be able to go back with you. But don't worry, young Master Qian. I'll get back to the East Continent as soon as possible. Zheng Dongxing secretly gritted his teeth. This was such a good opportunity. Little bastard, you don't know how to think about your grandfather. If you don't want to go back, at least let me go back with young Master Qian first. In fact, Zheng Tianqing really didn't dare to go back with Qian Xiaodong, although he and Qian Xiaodong often played together in the East Continent. But because of the difference in status, Zheng Tianqing was just a follower of Qian Xiaodong. He would be teased by them for no reason, and even when he suffered a loss, he still had to smile apologetically. Zheng Dongxing originally had the identity of a second-seat alchemist in Morning Star Academy, but later on, he courted death and was kicked out of the East Continent. Zheng Tianqing's life became even more difficult, so he did not hesitate to come to Zhongdao from the East Continent. Otherwise, who would be willing to leave the East Continent? You really have a lot of things to do. Qian Xiaodong smacked his lips discontentedly, then waved his hand and said, Forget it. Let's not talk about this first. Just now 2 boys offended me. Uncle Li used my father to pressure me, and told me not to cause trouble. Can you help me see if I know those 2 boys? Do they have any scary background? Uncle Li smiled bitterly and shook his head. Qian Xiaodong was talented, Otherwise he would not have become a genius disciple of Xixing Academy. Unfortunately, he was spoiled by his father since he was a child, so his character was more arrogant and overbearing. The matter just now was not worth mentioning at all. The cause was that Qian Xiaodong provoked them, and a few words of conflict was not a big deal. However, he was not willing to give up until he killed those two young men. Uncle Li could not persuade him on this matter, so he could only do as Qian Xiaodong said. It just so happened that Zheng Tianqing and the other two were here. Maybe he could use them to do things, and it would save a lot of trouble. Uncle Li had already made up his mind, so he did not speak. Zheng Tianqing said with a face full of righteous indignation. Who is so bold to even dare to offend young Master Qian? Let's go and see who it is. Young Master Qian, where did those two ignorant things go? Qian Xiaodong was very satisfied with Zheng Tianqing's performance, and pointed to the third floor and said, They just went up, let's go now, they are probably on the third floor. Zheng Tianqing said to his two grandfathers, and walked up with Qian Xiaodong. Now that the extreme North Island was full of big figures, he did not dare to be so arrogant usually, but now that Qian Xiaodong was with him, Zheng Tianqing was much more confident. Chapter 5879. Uncle Li wanted to borrow House Zheng's knife to kill, but he didn't expect that Zheng Tianqing was also planning to use Qian Xiaodong and Uncle Li as his backing. The group went up to the third floor, and Qian Xiaodong saw Lin Yi and Wei Shenjin right away. He pulled Zheng Tianqing and said, See that, it's those two brats. You don't know how arrogant those two were. If it wasn't for Uncle Li, I would have killed them already. Zheng Tianqing saw Lin Yi and Wei Shenjin, and he was overjoyed. He was just thinking about how to deal with Lin Yi, and he didn't expect that this guy would offend Qian Xiaodong. He knew that this Uncle Li beside Qian Xiaodong was a true mountain opening practitioner. Even if a black ascending practitioner couldn't kill you, wouldn't a mountain opening practitioner be able to? Zheng Tianqing's mind spun, and he had already thought of a plan to borrow a knife to kill. He pretended to be disdainful and said, Master Qian, so this is the guy you're talking about. I know him, he's called Lin Yi, a guy who likes to show off everywhere. With his connections he opened a small elixir shop in Middle Island. I heard that he asked a friend from 5 Elements Commerce to get the qualification to come here, and the one beside him is his follower, an inner disciple of the Snow Sword School. That week, Qian Xiaodong asked in amazement. Then he looked at Uncle Li and said, Uncle Li, are you relieved now? This kind of small fry, we should just kill him. What merchant house, what snow sword sect? They were nothing in Qian Xiaodong's eyes. His dad told him not to mess with them, and other than the super noble houses, there was only Zhang Liju from the Pill Hall, Shangguan Tianhua from the North Island, and a few others. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was just a lucky freelancer with some connections. If he knew that Zheng Tianqing purposely hid most of the information about Lin Yi, he might even thank him. He wanted to deal with Lin Yi anyways, so he didn't care who he was. Uncle Li didn't answer directly, but raised his eyebrows and asked, How much do you know about this Lin Yi? What's his strength now? Who is his master? Zheng Tianqing curled his lips inwardly. This Uncle Li was quite troublesome. You're a big shot in the opening phase. And since Lin Yi offended your young master, why don't you just go up and slap him to death? What's the point of talking so much? But since he had asked, Zheng Tianqing didn't dare to not answer. He could only bow respectfully and say, Mr. Li, I know Lin Yi very well. He is probably at the peak of the late stage of mystic ascension. And as for his master, he is a disciple of the Qingyun Pavilion in the North Island. What he is learning are the common arts and techniques of the Qingyun Pavilion. Blue Cloud Pavilion? Uncle Li repeated, and felt a lot more relieved. If it was a disciple of the Soaring Sky Pavilion, then he would persuade Qian Xiaodong to give up, because the Soaring Sky Pavilion had Shanghai Tianhua. As for the Blue Cloud Pavilion, although it was also from the North Island, it was not the Soaring Sky Pavilion after all, so it shouldn't be a problem. It was a pity that he didn't know that Lin Yi was someone that Shanghai Tianhua valued. Otherwise, he would never think that it would be easy to deal with Lin Yi. As for the strength of the peak of the profound ascension late stage, with Lin Yi's age, he could indeed be considered a genius. But in front of the mountain opening stage, even the great perfection profound ascension stage would not have any chance. Qian Xiaodong was a little impatient. He turned to Zheng Tianqing and said in a low voice, "Zheng Tianqing, go and kill those two brats for me. I'll definitely remember your benefits later." If he could do it himself, Qian Xiaodong would definitely do it himself. That would be more satisfying. But Uncle Li was still hesitant. It was estimated that he wouldn't be able to wait for any results. So he simply encouraged Zheng Tianqing to do it. Zheng Tianqing immediately said with a sad face, "Young Master Qian, how can I be that guy's opponent? He is an expert at the peak of the profound ascension late stage. With my level I will be killed in seconds. He probably won't even blink an eye." After saying that, he deliberately glanced at Uncle Li, meaning that the only one here who could deal with Lin Yi was probably his Uncle Li. Lin Yi had long discovered that the three people of the Zheng family and the two fools were together. They were indeed jackals of the same tribe, and their IQs were very low. They wanted to deal with him, but they actually stood here and pointed at him, afraid that he couldn't hear them and didn't know that they wanted to deal with him. Originally, Lin Yi wanted to see if there was any ghost cicada wings. Unfortunately, the extreme North Chamber of Commerce had a lot of things, and there was no lack of good materials, but none of them were what Lin Yi needed. He was in a bad mood, and these guys came to look for trouble. Lin Yi simply walked over and said, "What are you going to do? Just say it, don't be like a follower, don't you find it troublesome?" Uncle Li looked at Lin Yi carefully, but he couldn't see through Lin Yi's depth, which made him more cautious. There was no reason for a cultivator at the peak of the profound ascension late stage to be able to hide from his eyes and make him unable to see the opponent's strength. Qian Xiaodong was used to being arrogant, so he didn't have any scruples and directly scolded. "Who are you? How dare you talk to this young master like this? If you want to die, just say it. This young master will definitely fulfill your wish." Lin Yi didn't pay attention to this self-righteous fool. The strength of a mere peak of the nascent soul stage might be considered good among the younger generation, but in front of him, he didn't even have the qualification to fight. "Surnamed Zheng, you'd better be honest, my patience is limited. This is the last warning." Lin Yi completely ignored Qian Xiaodong and said to the three people of the Zheng family. The faces of the three people of the Zheng family were a little ugly. They wanted to say a few harsh words, but suddenly found that they really didn't have the courage to say anything more. As an alchemist, their status was indeed relatively noble, but Lin Yi's alchemy level was much more powerful than the three of them combined, and in terms of strength, Lin Yi could also beat the three of them, so what else was there to say? A wise man doesn't fight when the odds are against him. Endure for a moment, take a step back and the world will be bright. The three people of the Zheng family said these words in their hearts to comfort themselves, and then thought that they should hurry up and carry out the plan, cutting off all the wings of Lin Yi first. Qian Xiaodong was almost mad with anger. He was the dignified young master of Rapid City. Few people in the East Continent dared to ignore his words, but this small disciple of the Blue Cloud Pavilion of the North Island was simply too much. Chapter 5880. Uncle Li's expression changed slightly. Before the situation was clear, he didn't want to easily become enemies with Lin Yi. But now it was no longer up to him. With Qian Xiaodong's personality, since he made a move, he would never stop. Even Uncle Li wouldn't be able to stop him. Lin Yi sneered. He could easily crush this nascent soul realm idiot to death, and he could use more than 100 different methods without repeating them. But in the end, he didn't choose any of them, and let Qian Xiaodong's dagger stab into his body. Of course, Qian Xiaodong's dagger couldn't hurt Zheng Dongxing at all. He only did this because his consciousness had scanned Zheng Dongxing's jade box, and there was a yin core fruit in it. He wanted to get close to Zheng Dongxing, and that was why Qian Xiaodong was so proud. As soon as the dagger touched Lin Yi's clothes, he flew out as if he was hit by a giant hammer. That angle and direction was exactly where Zheng Dongxing was. No matter how you looked at it, you couldn't see any traces of it being intentional. It was simply perfect coordination. When Lin Yi flew close to Zheng Dongxing, The old man was afraid of being affected by him. He tried to dodge in a hurry. His mind was a bit scattered, and the opportunity appeared just like that. In terms of this kind of method, Linny was even better than Yu Xiaoge. He had received the teachings of Uncle Dong Jun. The moment he passed by, the yin-core fruit in the jade box on Zheng Dongxing's body was taken away by Lin Yi and put into his storage bag. To Lin Yi, the value of the yin-core fruit really wasn't worth mentioning. But going through so much trouble to get this yin-core fruit definitely wasn't the result of a sudden impulse. It was an action that had been carefully thought out. Since Shang Wanni's qi deviation was most likely caused by the Zheng family, then the yin-core fruit that Zheng Dongxing solemnly kept close to his body was a bit suspicious. There were many more precious spirit herbs and spirit fruits than this. Why did he not bring anything else but the yin-core fruit? So Linny thought that the safest thing to do was to have the yin-core fruit in his hands. If Zheng Dongxing knew that it was because he valued the yin-core fruit too much that Linny wanted to take it away, would he vomit blood? This yin-core fruit was indeed very important. When Tang Wulsui schemed against Kai Zhongyang, of course, he had to leave a way out for himself. He couldn't frame someone else and end up getting himself into trouble. The person who ordered the Yang extreme grass from the extreme North Island also ordered the yin-core fruit. In other words, Kai Zhongyang being able to obtain the Yang extreme grass was actually the result of Tang Wulsui's secret manipulation. This was because there was only one Yang extreme grass, but there were two yin-core fruits. Taking out a yin-core fruit, after consuming the Yang pole grass in Kai Zhongyang's hands, he could still take out a yin-core fruit to complete the order. This was the most important thing. Otherwise, no one would have anything. At most, it would be a lose-lose situation. There was no point in doing something that harmed others without benefiting oneself. Linny didn't know about the twists and turns. He just instinctively thought that it was strange for Zheng Dongxing to carry the yin-core fruit on him. So he took it away. Anyway, it was something from the Zheng family. It would be a waste not to take it. Qian Xiaodong saw that his attack was effective and was immediately overjoyed. He didn't even notice that Linny flew out on his own. He really thought that he was the one who showed his power and killed Lin Yi, the peak late-stage profound ascension cultivator. It seemed that the peak late-stage profound ascension was not a big deal. Qian Xiaodong thought as he rushed behind Lin Yi. He was now full of confidence. Of course, he wanted to take the opportunity to kill Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't feel like playing games with this guy anymore after getting the fruit. He stomped his feet and turned around to slap the guy's face. He didn't want to kill him for now, since he'd put on a good show with Lin Yi. He'd just teach him a lesson. "Uncle Li, save me." Qian Xiaodong was shocked and immediately screamed. He wasn't a person who didn't know what to do. To be able to become a genius disciple of Xixing Academy, he naturally saw that Lin Yi's casual slap was not something he could withstand. Although this slap wouldn't kill him, it was still very likely that half of his face would be slapped off. Even if he could recover with medicinal pills, Qian Xiaodong didn't want to suffer such an ugly injury. Uncle Li sighed in his heart. He had never relaxed his vigilance against Lin Yi, so he immediately appeared in front of Qian Xiaodong. Even before Qian Xiaodong opened his mouth, he had already blocked Lin Yi's slap. After a slight vibration, the overflowing zhenqi was completely restrained by Uncle Li. It did not affect any of the display cabinets on the third floor. The surrounding guests were also not affected. Lin Yi stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Uncle Li calmly. It was just an early-stage mountain opening expert. If he wanted to kill him, it wouldn't take too much effort. If this was not the extreme North Chamber of Commerce, but the wilderness, this Uncle Li and Qian Xiaodong would have already been killed by him. Uncle Li looked at Lin Yi with a serious expression. Just now, Lin Yi couldn't show his true strength at all. But seeing the other party's calm appearance, Uncle Li knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything good today. On the surface, the aura that Lin Yi displayed was indeed the strength of the peak late-stage mysterious ascension realm. However, Uncle Li's intuition told him that Lin Yi was not afraid of him, an early-stage mountain opening magnate realm cultivator. This kind of person was too scary. He was so young and had such strength. If he couldn't kill him in one go, then it was best not to offend him. Otherwise, with the potential that Lin Yi had shown, There might be a strong enemy that Rapid City couldn't face in the future. Little friend Lin, this matter is just a misunderstanding. How about we forget about it and not mention it? Uncle Li smiled and said sincerely, if they could reconcile, then it would naturally be for the best. Qian Xiaodong was still hoping that Uncle Li could teach Lin Yi a lesson. How could he be willing to make peace? He immediately said angrily, Uncle Li, what are you talking about? Hurry up and kill this bastard. He actually dared to attack me. The people of Rapid City have never suffered such a loss before. Lin Yi glanced at Qian Xiaodong disdainfully and said with a faint smile, misunderstanding? Why doesn't it look like it? Uncle Li's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Lin Yi didn't want to reconcile. If Qian Xiaodong didn't say anything, then perhaps Lin Yi would agree to his proposal. Unfortunately, his words had no effect other than making an enemy for Rapid City. Everyone, it is forbidden to fight in our extreme north chamber of commerce. If there is a next time, then don't blame us for not warning you. A short and fat middle-aged man appeared on the third floor with a smile and said gently. Chapter 5881. Of course, this was just their illusion. After all, the extreme north chamber of commerce was open to do business. As long as it was not too excessive, they would not easily kill people. At most, they would be expelled from the extreme north island and permanently blacklisted. Uncle Li felt that it was a pity. If only this person had come earlier to stop the conflict. If he had come now, he might as well have come later. However, based on the principle of a strong dragon, not oppressing a local snake, Uncle Li was still very polite and apologized to the fat man. Then he took the unwilling Qian Xiaodong and directly left the extreme north chamber of commerce. At this point, Uncle Li was already weighing the pros and cons of killing Lin Yi right here and now. A person like this, if he were to let him grow, wouldn't today's grudge turn into the annihilation of Rapid City in the future? Uncle Li, who was used to this kind of thing, did not dare to bet that Lin Yi would be open-minded and give up the revenge of Qian Xiaodong. Zheng Dongsheng and the other two did not dare to stay with Lin Yi after Qian Xiaodong left. In the case that their strength could not be suppressed, it was better to stay as far away from Lin Yi as possible. Seeing that the conflict was over, the short and fat man also quickly disappeared. Lin Yi shook his head and did not think much about this matter. He continued to walk up with Wei Shenjin. The fourth floor was the place where medicinal pills were sold. Lin Yi himself was able to refine Mystic Level 1, or even Mystic Level 2 alchemist. The medicinal pills here were not worth his attention at all. So he took Wei Shenjin directly to the fifth floor, and did not intend to stay here at all. There were very few customers on the fifth floor. It seemed that there were not many people who bought secret books. This made Lin Yi very satisfied. It was more suitable for him to choose what he needed with fewer people. Wei Shenjin, go and see if there are any mental cultivation methods and martial skills that you need. If you like it, tell me and I will give it to you. Lin Yi said straightforwardly. At present, he had more than 100 million spirit jades on him. Perhaps this was not enough to buy the spirit gathering branch and soul wood, but it should be more than enough to buy some mental cultivation methods and martial skills. Thank you, boss. Wei Shenjin happily agreed. He would not be courteous with Lin Yi. He knew that his boss was a straightforward person, so there was no need to be courteous. After Wei Shenjin ran off to find what he needed, Lin Yi walked to the other side alone. Wei Shenjin went to the mental cultivation and martial skills area, while Lin Yi went to the alchemy and array Dao area. With the Heaven's Stolen Fortune battle art in hand, Lin Yi didn't feel that he needed any better mental cultivation methods, and he reckoned that there wouldn't be any better mental cultivation methods here. As for martial skills, he could learn them from his opponents at any time, so there wasn't much need to buy some. A salesgirl came forward and bowed with a smile. Senior, may I ask if you need any books in this field? I can recommend you some. On Wei Shenjin's side, there was also a salesgirl introducing to him. There were many books here, so there was someone in charge of recommending them. This way, the success rate of business would be much higher. Lin Yi didn't dislike this. Although his divine sense could quickly scan through the names of the books, It was more efficient to let this beauty introduce them to him, instead of just knowing the names. I want to find a book that introduces all kinds of spiritual herbs and fruits. It would be best if there are pictures and detailed descriptions of their properties. Do you have it here? Lenny nodded at the salesgirl and asked casually. He had wanted a book like this for a long time. Zhang Liju's elixir refining notes also had introductions to these spiritual herbs and fruits, but it was only mentioned in passing. Lenny wanted to improve further on the path of elixir refining, so he couldn't stop absorbing this knowledge. The salesgirl smiled sweetly. Yes, we, the Extreme North Commerce, have collected many books in this field. I'm sure they can satisfy your needs, Senior. I wonder if you have any requirements for the book's details? Naturally, the more detailed the better, Lenny said without hesitation. If he bought the simple version, he might miss out on some precious spiritual herbs and fruits. He wouldn't be able to recognize them in the future, and that would be a huge loss. Since he was going to buy it, of course he would buy the best. The salesgirl was secretly surprised. The smile on her face became even sweeter. The best book on spiritual herbs and fruits wasn't cheap. If she could sell it, she would earn a lot of money today. Senior, please come this way. According to your request, I recommend this Herbal Essentials, detailed explanation to you. This ancient book has collected more than 99% of the spirit herbs on the Heaven Stage Island. Occasionally, there are some that have been missed, but they are too obscure and have never been heard of before. Among the similar books sold on the market, this is the most detailed one. The salesgirl enthusiastically introduced it to Lin Yi. She didn't say any exaggerated words, but truthfully said that this book was the best one that could be bought in the market, and there were some that were missing. Lin Yi glanced at the book in the crystal cabinet. The price marked below was 20,000 spirit jades. This wasn't something that anyone could casually take out. When he first came to Sky Class Island, Lin Yi couldn't even afford 1 or 2 pages of this book, even if he sold himself. Can I take a look? Although 20,000 spirit jades was just a drop in the bucket for Lin Yi, if he bought a trash book, it would be completely meaningless. The salesgirl nodded respectfully and said, "Of course, please wait a moment." After that, the salesgirl made a few hand gestures and unlocked the restriction on the transparent crystal cabinet. She carefully took out the book and handed it over to Lin Yi. "Senior, the books sold by our Extreme North Chamber of Commerce have restrictions on them before they are sold. Only the first 10 pages can be tested." After Lin Yi took the book, the salesgirl deliberately reminded him, so that Lin Yi wouldn't be unhappy if he couldn't read it. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, "I understand." After opening it, the first page was a description of spiritual herbs. The general idea was that plants that contain the spiritual energy of the world, whether it was spiritual herbs or spiritual fruits, were collectively called spiritual herbs. Moreover, because of the different regions, the same species might have different growth conditions and so on. Lin Yi already knew about these things. There was nothing new, so after a quick glance, he flipped it over. After that, it recorded the medicinal properties and effects of various spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits. Each spiritual herb would be accompanied by a small and exquisite illustration, giving people a very intuitive impression. Chapter 5882. Moreover, in addition to these analyses, there were also some rumors or speculations about the origin of the elixir, so that people could follow the map and find a direction. Good. This book is really good, I want it. Lin Yi nodded satisfactorily. Not to mention the detailed analysis of the medicinal properties in the book, just the hint of the source of the elixir was worth more than 20,000 spirit jades. So he didn't even have the intention to bargain, and directly bought the herbal essences in detail. The girl who received Lin Yi was suddenly overjoyed. A business worth 20,000 spirit jades was done. She could at least get a commission of hundreds of spirit jades, which was enough to make up for several months of no business income. Lin Yi was really a generous customer. The girl also secretly rejoiced in her heart. She didn't recommend those ancient books for thousands of spirit jades, or only a few hundred spirit jades for Lin Yi. Although those were also valuable, compared with this book, they were child's play. Of course, The cheapest one could even be bought for a few dozen spirit jades. This kind of goods would definitely not be the first choice. Do you have any kinds of elixir recipes for sale here? The extreme North Island was worthy of being the gold-squandering den of the Heavenly Island. There were many good things. Lenny wanted to see if there was any elixir recipe for sale. What he lacked the most in alchemy was all kinds of elixir recipes. Although he could get many elixir recipes by helping others, he couldn't control it at all. If he needed to refine some life-saving elixir, but didn't have the elixir recipe, wouldn't he only be able to stare? The girl became more and more excited. The price of the elixir recipe was more expensive than the book. Today, she was going to make a fortune. Senior, I don't know what kind of elixir recipe you need. Our Extreme North Chamber of Commerce has a compilation of yellow-level elixir recipes. There are a total of 97 kinds of yellow-level elixir recipes. The price is 1.5 million spirit jades. As for the mystic-level elixir recipes, they are sold separately. The mystic-level first-level elixir recipe is basically 300,000 spirit jades. The girl eagerly looked at Lin Yi, hoping that he could buy the compilation of yellow-level elixir recipes. With a price of 1.5 million spirit jades, she would be able to get a commission of at least 10,000 spirit jades after the transaction. It was almost the same as hitting the jackpot. Normally, no one would buy this kind of pill recipe. Even if they did, they would buy a single pill recipe with a clear purpose. Because Lin Yi looked quite young, the girl instinctively felt that even if Lin Yi was an alchemist, it was impossible for him to surpass the golden tier. Therefore, she only introduced the price of the mystic level 1 pill recipe and didn't continue. In comparison, a 300,000 pill recipe and a book with 97 pill recipes for 1.5 million was a very good comparison. It would make people subconsciously choose to buy the compilation. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Let me see all the mystic grade 1 and above pill recipes. As for the yellow grade, forget it." Now the yellow grade pills were no longer of any use to Lin Yi. At most, he would refine some pills to improve the cultivation of his underlings. He had all the pill recipes in this area. So what he needed now was to buy the mystic grade 1 and above pill recipes. The girl was stunned for a moment, and then understood. The person in front of her was likely to be a mystic grade 1 and above alchemist. Such a young mystic grade 1 alchemist, it was really hard for her to accept. Speaking of which, why would a mystic grade 1 alchemist want to buy the herb essence? For a detailed explanation. Seeing that the girl didn't move, Lin Yi raised his eyebrows and asked, "What? Can't I see it? At least tell me the name and use of the pill recipe?" The girl quickly shook her head and said, No, sorry senior, I was distracted." After a quick apology, the girl's pretty face was slightly red, and she quickly took out a piece of paper and said, "Senior, our Extreme North Commerce currently only has 5 mystic grade 1 pill recipes, 2 mystic grade 2 pill recipes, and no higher level ones. Please take a look and see if there is anything you need. By the way, each mystic grade 2 pill recipe is 600,000 spirit jades." Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh. Being an elixir refiner really was a very wealthy occupation. Just the recipes alone could be sold for hundreds of thousands of spirit jades, and refining elixirs for other people required them to provide the recipes themselves. This was equivalent to earning a lot of spirit jades for free, not to mention the other rewards. Taking the paper and looking at it, it recorded the names and simple introductions of the 7 mystic grade pill recipes. Lin Yi found that 2 of them were mystic grade 1 pill recipes, and 1 mystic grade 2 pill recipe that he already had. So there was no need to buy them again. "I want these 3 mystic grade 1 pill recipes, and 1 mystic grade 2 pill recipe." Lin Yi pointed to the few pill recipes that he didn't have, and said to the girl, "A mere 1 million spirit jades he didn't care at all." The Zheng family gave him 15 million spirit jades. As for the girl who received Lin Yi, she was about to faint from happiness. 4 pill recipes. The total price was exactly the same as the yellow pill recipe compilation. She thought she couldn't do this big business, but she didn't expect it to be successful in the end. Afraid that Lin Yi would regret it, the girl broke through her limits and handed the 4 pill recipes to Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't hesitate, and directly took out the corresponding spirit jade card and gave it to her, letting her settle the bill first. After removing the restriction on herbal essentials detailed explanation and the 4 pill recipes, Lenny was about to go to the Array Dao area to take a look. Suddenly, he heard a faint quarrel coming from the martial technique area. Wei Shenjin's voice was impressively among them. Lin Yi's divine sense immediately swept over there. If it was a floor away, it might be blocked by the restriction, but on the same floor, his divine sense didn't have the slightest hindrance. He easily saw where Wei Shenjin was. At this time, Wei Shenjin was confronting a young man in his 20s. 2 girls from the extreme North Chamber of Commerce stood between the two anxiously, persuading them to keep calm. Lin Yi just took a glance and knew that this was a dispute between the two because of a heart sutra. Since Wei Shenjin was in trouble, he as the boss naturally had to stand up for him. Therefore, Lin Yi didn't go to the Array Dao area, but went directly to the martial technique area. Kid, if you know what's good for you, then hurry up and get out of here. Otherwise, just wait for this young master to teach you a lesson. The young man had a domineering look. If it weren't for the 2 girls from the extreme North Chamber of Commerce stopping him, he might have already made a move on Wei Shenjin. Lin Yi estimated that he would be blacklisted by the extreme North Chamber of Commerce in the future. It wasn't long since he came here, and he already had 2 conflicts. If it was him, he also didn't like to have such people patronizing his Tiandan pavilion. Chapter 5883. This young master, that martial skill was indeed his first. Our extreme North Chamber of Commerce still has the rule of first come, first served. In fact, there are other similar martial skills. Let me introduce you. One of the 2 girls in the middle squeezed out a smile and said to the young man. The other one was persuading Wei Shenjin in a low voice to stop adding fuel to the fire. The young man pushed the girl in front of him and said loudly, Extreme North Chamber of Commerce has the rule of first come, first served. There should also be a rule of the highest bidder, right? The price of this martial skill is 100,000 spirit jades. This young master will pay 200,000 spirit jades to buy it. There is no problem, right? The girl who was pushed suddenly stopped talking. If Wei Shenjin had already paid the money and the goods, then it would be useless to say anything. However, Wei Shenjin only had the intention to buy it. Strictly speaking, he didn't really complete the transaction. At this time, someone was willing to pay a high price for it. It really didn't violate the rules. More importantly, if Wei Shenjin bought it, the benefits would belong to the other girl. If this young man bought it, then the commission of the spirit jades would belong to her. In the face of such temptation, the girl really couldn't resist, so she let the young man bid. Wei Shenjin coldly snorted and said, The highest bidder gets it. Do you think I don't have spirit jades? I'll pay 250,000 spirit jades. Behind him was Lin Yi, a profound level 1 alchemist. A mere few 100,000 spirit jades was no pressure at all. There was no need for Lin Yi to make a move. Wei Shenjin's own savings were enough. The young man didn't even frown and directly said lightly, 500,000 spirit jades. The girl who was pushed away by this guy immediately covered her mouth to prevent herself from screaming. It was just 200,000 spirit jades, and now it suddenly became 500,000. Although Wei Shenjin added 50,000 in the middle, this guy added 250,000 without changing his expression. It was clear that he was determined to get that martial skill. Wei Shenjin's face was a bit ugly. Obviously, he was not used to the other party doubling the price. After a slight pause, Wei Shenjin said, 600,000 spiritual jades. This was all he had, and he could only rely on Lin Yi to use the rest of it. 1 million spirit jades. This young master wants to see how much you can carry in your wallet. The young man seemed to have noticed Wei Shenjin's hesitation and immediately said proudly, even if Wei Shenjin had spiritual jades, he would not continue to increase the price. Moreover, he did not have enough spiritual jades at the moment. Although he was helpless, it seemed like he could only give up now. Wei Shenjin glanced at the book and was about to give up when Lin Yi's voice sounded in his ear. Continue. Don't worry about the spiritual jades. Wei Shenjin's spirit was immediately shaken. Although it was only Lin Yi's voice transmission, he instantly became very confident. He once again called out, 1,500,000 spirit jades. He directly increased the price by 500,000, which was even more than that guy's previous increase. Wei Shenjin directly surpassed him in terms of momentum. Fortunately, this was not a normal auction. Otherwise, everyone would go crazy. Who the hell liked to increase the price like this? Even if you have spiritual jades, you can't play like this. The young man suddenly became angry. He did not know where Wei Shenjin's confidence came from, but he absolutely could not tolerate his opponent's arrogant expression in front of him. In terms of spiritual jades, he had never been afraid of anyone. 3 million spirit jades. If you have the guts, continue to increase the price. This young master does not believe that you actually have that many spiritual jades. This guy's eyes were filled with rage. Everyone believed that if Wei Shenjin dared to continue to increase the price, he would do everything he could to suppress Wei Shenjin. To be honest, Wei Shenjin was really hesitant. 3 million spirit jades to buy a 100,000 spirit jades martial skill was already far beyond his psychological endurance. Although Lin Yi did not lack spirit jades, he also could not use his boss's things so casually. However, his hesitation did not show. He heard Lin Yi's voice transmission. 5 million spirit jades. 5 million spirit jades. Wei Shenjin did not hesitate to do as he was told. He did not consider whether Lin Yi's words were reasonable or not. He just instinctively did as he was told. 8 million spirit jades. The young man also did not stop to call out the latest price. When the young girl heard this, she almost fainted. This world was too crazy. Small people like them could not understand it. At this time, Lin Yi just happened to walk over. He said to Wei Shenjin, "Let's go." Only those idiots would spend 8 million spirit jades to buy a rubbish martial skill. Later, we will buy another 50 or 60 martial skills. Learn 2, throw away 3, and use a few dozen for barbecue. Wei Shenjin was slightly startled. He thought that Lin Yi would fight to the death with the other party. He did not expect that he would directly say that he was leaving. However, he immediately understood that his boss was tricking that idiot. That martial skill was indeed not bad. However, it was definitely not a rare item. Otherwise, it would not be placed here for sale. Instead, it was directly sent to the auction house. If one were to talk about its value, it would be at most 150,000 spirit jades. 8 million spirit jades? Hee. Wei Shenjin did not know what to say. Okay, boss. Let's go. There seems to be nothing else that can catch my eye. After thinking about it, Wei Shenjin suddenly felt refreshed. He smiled and agreed. He followed Lin Yi and prepared to leave. As for that young man, he did not even bother to look at him. That young man's complexion instantly turned gloomy. It was true that he had spirit jades. However, being tricked like this had nothing to do with the amount of spirit jades. In fact, he originally wanted to trick Wei Shenjin. If he had bid 3 million spirit jades, and Wei Shenjin had only added 100,000 or 200,000 spirit jades, he should not have continued to increase the price. Because such a price meant that Wei Shenjin was about to reach his bottom line. He could give up at any time. However, when he saw Wei Shenjin bid 5 million spirit jades without even blinking his eyes, this young man had wrongly estimated Wei Shenjin's endurance. He thought that Wei Shenjin was also a person who did not lack spirit jades. Moreover, he would bid more than 10 million spirit jades for the sake of fighting spirit. As long as Wei Shenjin continued to bid, he would stop bidding. At the same time, he would be complacent and ridiculing him. However, he did not expect that before he could carry out his plan, he would be tricked by the other party. This feeling of suffocation almost made the young man explode with anger. Chapter 5884. If this wasn't the extreme North Chamber of Commerce, and if he wasn't warned by his family's elders not to stir up trouble in the extreme North Island, he would have already made his move instead of asking for the names of Lin Yi and Wei Wuyan out of boredom. Lin Yi casually pushed Yu Ziqing aside and said faintly, I'm not interested in knowing a small fry like you. If you want revenge, come and find me directly. My name is Lenny. And Wei Shenjin. Since the boss had signed up, as the younger brother of course he couldn't fall behind. Wei Shenjin also squinted at Yu Ziqing and said proudly. Yu Ziqing was extremely shocked. He originally thought that his strength was enough to deal with Lin Yi and Wei Wuyan. He was still thinking whether he should teach them a lesson after leaving the extreme North Chamber of Commerce. However, Lin Yi casually pushed him away and made him feel that he couldn't resist at all. This young guy was actually more talented than him. Other than the East Continent, could there be such a person in other rural areas? I'll remember you. Yu Ziqing forcibly suppressed the anger in his heart. He was arrogant, but he was not a brainless person. Otherwise, he wouldn't want to trick Wei Shenjin. It just happened too fast just now, and he didn't have time to think, so Lin Yi took the initiative. Now Lin Yi's strength was obviously above him, and the person protecting him was not by his side. Therefore, he could only temporarily swallow this anger and wait to settle the score later. Lin Yi didn't care about Yu Ziqing's intention and directly left the extreme North Chamber of Commerce with Wei Shenjin. Of course, before leaving, he also asked the previous girl to take a book on the basics of Array Dao and a more advanced ancient book on Array Dao, so that they could study it when they had time. These two books were common goods, so they weren't worth much. After asking for instructions, the girl directly gave them to Lin Yi as a bonus. Anyway, the previous martial arts skill, that was worth 100,000 spirit jades, was sold for 8 million, which had a lot to do with Lin Yi and Wei Wuyan. This little thing was nothing at all. Lin Yi had no reason to refuse. This time, he had gained a lot from coming to the extreme North Chamber of Commerce. Of course, the biggest gain was offending two young masters from the East Continent. Boss, I'm sorry. I've caused you trouble again. On the way back, Wei Shenjin said with some shame. He didn't know that Yu Ziqing was from the East Continent. Otherwise he wouldn't have gotten into a fight with him. After all, he'd just gotten into an argument with Qian Xiaodong. People from the East Continent weren't easy to deal with, and it wasn't a wise choice to continue making enemies. Lin Yi waved his hand nonchalantly. Remember, we're not looking for trouble, but we're not afraid of others either. As long as we're in the right, there's nothing to worry about. Boss. Wei Shenjin was greatly encouraged. He agreed loudly, and threw his previous worries to the back of his mind. Lin Yi was really not afraid of others finding trouble with him. Along the way, opponents who were stronger than him were all defeated by him. Even if those two guys had a strong background, he had nothing to worry about. This was not blind confidence, but confidence in his own Dao. No matter what kind of strong enemy he faced, he had a fearless Dao heart. In the entire northernmost island, only the northernmost Chamber of Commerce was selling things. Apart from that, there were some places to eat, drink, and have fun. The name of Gold Squandering Den was not just for show. Before the auction began, the business of these places was extremely prosperous. Lin Yi had no interest in these. After buying what he wanted, he went back with Wei Shenjin. He had to seize the time to learn some basic knowledge. Whether it was Dan Dao or Array Dao, it would be of great help to him. However, Lin Yi didn't have much time to learn. After about half an hour, someone came to Five Elements Commerce looking for Kai Zhongyang. If it was a normal person looking for someone, Lin Yi certainly wouldn't care. However, the person was shouting as soon as he came. It was obvious that he was looking for trouble. Lin Yi couldn't just sit back and do nothing. Kai Zhongyang, come out quickly. If you can't take out the Yangji grass today, I will teach your Five Elements Commerce a lesson. As soon as Lin Yi came out, he saw a handsome young man blocking the entrance with more than 10 elite Northern Garrison soldiers. He was shouting and cursing loudly. The person who could command the Northern Garrison was naturally an important figure in the northernmost island. In addition, the young man was accompanied by Zheng Dongxing and the others. Lin Yi suddenly felt enlightened. All the clues had been connected since the moment this person appeared to ask for the Yangji grass. Kai Zhongyang ran out before Lin Yi. After seeing the young man, he hurried to greet him. He cupped his fists and bowed with a smile. Young island ownerly, please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Previously, I went to visit you with the vice president of the Universal Chamber of Commerce. But I didn't get to see you. I was going to visit you tomorrow. But I didn't expect that you would come in person. Lin Yi's eyes narrowed. He had guessed that this young man was one of the higher-ups in the northernmost island, but he didn't expect him to be the young island owner. The Li family of the northernmost island was not well known because they rarely showed up. Steward Song, who took care of the northernmost island for them, was even more famous. However, if anyone dared to look down on the Li family of the northernmost island, then they must be tired of living. Otherwise, the two brats from the East Continent wouldn't have been warned by their elders. Cut the crap. I'll be honest with you. Unless you can find the Yongpol grass within 2 days, otherwise, even if you give me 100 billion spirit jades, you won't be able to leave here alive. Kai Zhongyang and the others all took in a deep breath. They didn't expect Li Ziyu to be so resolute. Other than the Yongpol grass, it seemed like there was nothing else that could make him change his mind. Linny walked up and cupped his fists. Young Island Master Li, may I ask what you need the Yongpol grass for? Who are you? Li Ziyu stared at Lin Yi with an unfriendly expression. He wasn't in a good mood right now, and he wasn't someone that any random person could talk to. North Island Blue Cloud Pavilion disciple Lin Yi. Lin Yi casually told Li Ziyu his identity. Since other identities weren't threatening in front of Li Ziyu, he might as well say that he was a disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion. It was the same anyway. One of the Northern Guard soldiers seemed to know who Lin Yi was. He leaned close to Li Ziyu and whispered something in his ear. Li Ziyu's expression didn't change. He nodded slightly and said, "So you're a disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion, that Shanghai Tianhua thinks highly of. So what? If you want to intercede on their behalf, even if Shanghai Tianhua is here, it's useless. Let alone a mere disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion." Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "I'm not interceding. I'm just asking the young island master what the Yongpol grass is for." Li Ziyu seemed to think that it wasn't bad that Lin Yi was valued by Shanghai Tianhua. He was barely able to speak in front of him. Surprisingly, he didn't get angry at Lin Yi. He only said coldly, "Of course I want the Yongpol grass to refine the yin yang pill. Otherwise, do you think I'm going to plant it for fun?" Lin Yi didn't mind and smiled. "Young Island Master Li, I'm a mystic level 1 alchemist. There's one thing you might not know. I was the one who refined the yin yang pill on the ancient warship. So I want to tell you that just having the Yongpol grass isn't enough to refine the yin yang pill." "So you're the one who refined the yin yang pill." Li Ziyu's complexion slightly changed, but he didn't get angry like he did with Shang Wani. After all, he was facing an alchemist. At the very least, he needed to show respect. After looking deeply at Lin Yi, Li Ziyu pointed at Zheng Dongsheng and said, "I don't need you to remind me. This young master naturally knows that refining the yin yang pill requires the yin core fruit. This is the Hall of Medicine's alchemist Zheng. He has the yin core fruit that this young master ordered." Lin Yi sneered in his heart. This matter was really the Zheng family's plot. The purpose was to attack him by attacking Kai Zhongyang. This method was even more infuriating than directly plotting against him. It was no wonder that Zheng Dongxing wanted to keep a yin core fruit close to his body. Plotting against Kai Zhongyang, of course, he had to pull himself out. If there was only one yin core fruit, it was estimated that the Zheng family wouldn't have thought about Kai Zhongyang's Yongpol grass. Perishing together was not the result that the Zheng family wanted. Fortunately, Lin Yi had accidentally found the yin core fruit on Zheng Dongxing's body and conveniently got it. Now it came in handy. "Young Island Master, where do you think the yin yang pill and yin core fruit that I refined came from? I'm not afraid to tell you that I bought it from alchemist Zheng Dongsheng. President Kai, with the purpose of saving people, took out the Yongpol grass for free. Originally, he wanted to continue to search for more, but unfortunately, the North Island didn't have it. So he wanted to apologize to the young island master. Does this alchemist Zheng have any intentions in this regard?" Lin Yi sneered. Zheng Dongsheng probably didn't realize that the jade box on him no longer had the yin core fruit. Otherwise, he wouldn't be standing so calmly beside Li Ziyu. Li Ziyu was slightly startled, then looked at Zheng Dongxing with an unfriendly expression and said, "Alchemist Zheng, did you really sell this young master's core fruit?" Without waiting for Zheng Dongxing to speak, Lin continued, "Young Island Master, when you went to ask Zheng Dongxing for the core fruit, did he say that even if you had the core fruit, it would be useless? Because the Yangpole grass had already been used up, and because the young island master was distracted, he didn't get the core fruit and directly brought people to find Vice President Kai?" Although Lin said it simply, it was basically very close to the truth. Li Ziyu wasn't a fool. In a flash, he knew that he had been played. This was clearly a scheme to divert the trouble to someone else, to kill with a borrowed knife. After a moment of silence, Li Ziyu then took the jade box from Zheng Dongxing's hands and said, "This young master believes that our Li family of the extreme north will not be bribed by you. So even if what you said this time is reasonable, seeing that you have successfully brought the core fruit, I will not argue with you." Just as he finished speaking, Li Ziyu, who had just opened the jade box, glared angrily and fiercely smashed the empty jade box onto Zheng Dongxing's head, causing his head to bleed, and he almost died from his brain rupturing. "Old fool! How dare you make fun of me? Do you really think I won't dare to kill you?" Li Ziyu was about to explode. This old bastard. He actually took an empty box to make fun of him. He had seen people who were not afraid of death, but he had never seen someone who was not afraid of death to this extent. After throwing the jade box, Li Ziyu took the opportunity to kick the dumbfounded Zheng Dongxing's chest. A few light cracking sounds could be heard. It was obvious that several of Zheng Dongxing's sternum were broken. "Take them down and throw them into prison. Don't let this old thing die. If I don't let this old thing know the consequences of making fun of this young master, how can I let him die so easily?" Li Ziyu's chest was violently moving up and down. It was obvious that he was really angry. It was fine that Zheng Dongxing used a borrowed knife to kill someone, but he actually took out an empty box and said that there was a core fruit. Did the dignified young master of the extreme North Island look like an idiot? He couldn't even tell if it was an empty box or not. After receiving the order, several North Town guards instantly unsheathed their sabers and formed an attack formation, surrounding the three people of the Zheng family. Two long sabers were directly placed on Zheng Dongxing's neck. If he dared to move, he would immediately be beheaded. "Young master, I'm wronged. There must be some misunderstanding here." Zheng Dongxing couldn't care less about the blood spurting from his forehead and the blood that kept gushing out of his mouth. He screamed at the top of his lungs. Fortunately, Li Ziyu said that he wouldn't let him die so easily. After the North Town guards restrained him, they had already fed him a healing elixir. At least his injuries were under control. Zheng Dongjue also quickly begged for mercy. "Young master, I am the vice head of Middle Island's Alchemy Hall. I dare to swear on the name of Middle Island's Alchemy Hall that this is not what you see. Please give us some time. We will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation." As for Zheng Tianqing, he was basically pissing his pants. He only wanted to find Qian Xiaodong now. On the extreme North Island, perhaps only Qian Xiaodong could save his life. After that, it didn't matter if he became their slave or slave. As long as he could stay alive in the hands of the furious Li Ziyu, it was fine. Unfortunately, under the situation where he was being stabbed, he didn't even have the strength to beg for mercy, let alone find Qian Xiaodong. The vice head of the Alchemy Hall dares to come to the extreme North Island and make fun of this young master? Do you really think you are the elixir god Zhang Liju? Li Ziyu said to Zheng Dongjue in disdain. Although he said that, he didn't do anything to Zheng Dongjue for the sake of the Alchemy Hall. Otherwise, these two old things wouldn't have a good time. Zheng Dongjue quickly seized the opportunity to say, "Young Island Lord, to tell you the truth, my cousin did indeed sell a core fruit, but we only had two core fruits. Because we could leave one for Young Island Lord, we took out one to save Shangwani's life. Who knew that the core fruit we left behind would have a problem? We really didn't mean to deceive Young Island Lord." Li Ziyu laughed and narrowed his eyes. What, you can't take anything out, and you're blaming me? No, how could we dare to blame you? What I mean is, there must be something fishy going on. Zhang Dongjue quickly explained. If they continued to piss Li Ziyu off, the three of them might just die. Now, it's you who didn't keep your words. This kind of chamber of commerce doesn't have the right to enter the extreme North Island. I'm already being merciful by not killing you all. If you still don't know what's good for you, then just don't leave. All of you can stay in the extreme North Island. I will find you a good place. As he said that, Li Ziyu turned and pointed at Zhang Dongjue. And you, I will give face to Dan God Zhang Liju. Bring everyone from the Dan Hall, and get out of the extreme North Island. Unless the Dan God comes personally, otherwise, you are all forbidden from entering the island. As for this old thing and his grandson, lock them up in the jail first. If my old man is fine, then forget it. If anything happens to him, then prepare to be sliced into pieces. Zheng Dongxing and Zheng Tianqing felt a chill down their spine. They wanted to struggle and beg for mercy. Unfortunately, the two northern sentinels knocked them out and tied them up tightly like rice dumplings. Chapter 5888. Young Island Master, this is really a misunderstanding. Please give me some time, and I will definitely give you an explanation. Moreover, the chief alchemist of our pill hall, Master Li Zhao, is also here this time. She is not only a genius in alchemy, but she also has amazing talent in medical skills. Perhaps Master Li Zhao might be able to cure Island Lord's injury. Please give us a chance, young Island Lord. Our pill hall will definitely be grateful for young Island Lord's magnanimity. Zhang Dongjue did not look like a deputy hall master at all. He was simply begging for Li Ziyu's forgiveness. Li Ziyu was slightly tempted when he heard the name of chief alchemist Li Zhaoyi. If Li Zhaoyi could really cure his father, then it did not matter whether he had the yin and yang pill or not. Zhang Dongjue, can you be more shameless? Lin sneered. If Li Zhaoyi had that ability, she wouldn't have needed to refine the yin and yang pill on the ancient warship. She could have cured Vice President Shang directly. Are you trying to say that Vice President Shang's condition is more serious than Island Master Li? So Li Zhaoyi can't cure him? Zhang Dongjue was going crazy. He wanted nothing more than to strangle this bastard to death right now. Why did he always have something to say? How could Shang Wani and Li Zaixiang be the same? Shang Wani would die in 24 hours on the ancient warship, but Li Zaixiang had held on for so long. It was obvious that he was much better than Shang Wani. If Li Zhaoyi agreed to help, there might be a chance. However, after hearing what Lin said, Li Ziyu would never believe him. As expected, Li Ziyu's expression was extremely ugly. He glared at Zheng Dongjue and said to all the people who were being expelled, "Don't say that I am heartless. It's already dark. I'll let you stay for one more night. When the sun rises, all of you are to get out of the extreme North Island. Those who don't leave after the time limit will be killed by the Northern Guards." Yes, all the North Garrison Guardians agreed in unison. It was a shocking sight, especially Zheng Dongjue. He was already a little lost, and now he was even more frightened, not knowing what to do. Seeing that Li Ziyu was about to leave, Lin took out the extra yin and yang pill, tossed it up and down in his hand, and said, "Brother Kai, Brother Shang, since the northernmost island doesn't welcome us, let's leave. In fact, it's not a big deal. If there are good things, there are places to buy and sell them. Look at my special grade yin and yang elixir. If I can't sell it in the northernmost island, can't I sell it elsewhere?" Just as Li Ziyu was about to take a step forward, he abruptly retracted his foot and turned around with lightning speed. His eyes locked onto the black and white elixir in Lin Yi's hand, and his head involuntarily nodded along. Yin and yang pill. It was indeed the yin and yang pill. Li Ziyu was about to cry. Chapter 5889. Shang Wani also looked dejected. He nodded and said, President Kai, then I will go back and pack up first. See you on the ship later. Li Ziyu wanted to cry but had no tears. Although life is like a play and it all depends on acting, aren't you two old men acting too fake? Can you keep that smile at the corner of your mouth first? If he could rob it, Li Ziyu might directly rob it. The problem was that the elixir was in the hands of Lin Yi. He was worried that if he moved, the yin and yang pill would be destroyed by Lin Yi in an instant. This was the only elixir that could save his old man at present. If it was destroyed because of his impulsiveness, he would not be able to forgive himself. Fortunately, Li Ziyu had a good brain and was a straightforward person. He knew that the reason why Lin Yi took out the yin and yang pill was to talk about a deal. Now he was being difficult just to vent his anger. So he simply stepped forward and cupped his fists and bowed. Brother Lin, Vice President Kai, Vice President Shang. Li Ziyu was wrong just now. Please forgive me. It was not easy for the dignified young island master to do this. If they continued to force him, even if Li Ziyu gave in for Li Zixiang, he would definitely hold a grudge in his heart in the future. Unless Lin Yi and the others didn't stay in the extreme North Island anymore, they would definitely be retaliated in the open and in the dark. Brother Lin, don't lower yourself to my level. Because of my old man's injury, I am also burning with anxiety. So when I heard that the life-saving thing is gone, it is inevitable that my mood is bad. If I have offended you in any way, I will treat everyone to a drink as an apology. This yin and yang pill, no matter how much you offer, I Li Ziyu will buy it. Li Ziyu, who straightened up, was quite sincere. He had also spread out what he could say. Now it was up to Lin Yi's answer. Of course, Lin Yi also knew when to stop. When it came to taking advantage of others, it might seem like he was gaining an advantage on the surface, but in reality, it was hard to say how much of a loss he would suffer. Honestly speaking, Lin Yi admired this Li Ziyu a little. At least when he was in an absolute advantage, he didn't kill him because of his personal feelings. Therefore, after he kept the yin and yang pill into the jade bottle, he smiled and said, I can naturally understand young island master Li's concern for his father. If not, I wouldn't have taken out the yin and yang pill. On account of young island master Li's filial piety, I'll pretend that nothing happened just now. I won't auction this yin and yang pill. Li Ziyu knew there was a chance when he heard that. He immediately laughed and said, Brother Lin, calling me young island lord is too formal. Why don't you just call me by my name? Li Ziyu, it's very easy to say. We're all friends, so everything can be discussed, right? Heh, Brother Li is indeed a straightforward person. Lin Yi found it funny in his heart. This young island lord's character was quite good. He didn't stand on ceremony and changed his words. Since Brother Li has said that we're all friends, then this yin and yang pill naturally belongs to you. Li Ziyu caught the jade bottle that Lin Yi threw over in a daze. He still didn't dare to believe it. Yin and yang pill, I got it just like that? He subconsciously opened the jade bottle and took a look. Yes, it was indeed the yin and yang pill. Moreover, it was of special quality with 3 elixir halos. Even the young island lord of the extreme North Island rarely saw such a top-grade elixir. Brother Lin, how many spirit jades do you need for this elixir? Or do you need anything in exchange? Just tell me. As long as I can get it, I will definitely get it for you. Li Ziyu forcefully suppressed the excitement in his heart. He took a deep breath and said solemnly. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, Brother Li, you're treating me like an outsider. This yin and yang pill can be considered compensation from the 5 elements commerce for the yang pole grass. As you said, we're all friends. There's no point in talking about these small details. A yang pole grass and a special quality yin and yang pill. Could the value of the two be the same? If it was in the trade fair. Even if he used 100 yang pole grass to exchange for this special quality yin and yang pill, there would still be people who would agree. As long as he had the 100 yang pole grass, it would be fine. Lin Yi's favor was definitely huge. Li Ziyu had no choice but to accept this favor. Unless he didn't want to save his old man. Brother Lin, since you've put it that way, I won't be unreasonable. From now on, you're my brother. If you need anything, just tell me. As a brother, I won't say no. Li Ziyu patted his chest and said solemnly. It could be seen that Li Ziyu's words were quite serious. Lin Yi was also slightly moved. A yin and yang pill that was insignificant to him. If he could gain a person's sincere friendship, it would be worth a lot more than tens of millions of spirit jades. Since we're brothers, there's no need to say anything more. Lin Yi also smiled faintly and reached out his hand to pat Li Ziyu's. The two of them had an inexplicable feeling of appreciation for each other. Li Ziyu was in a good mood. He took out a jade token and handed it to Lin Yi, saying, "Brother Lin, I won't give you anything else. This jade token is reserved for the auction box of the Li family in the extreme north. You can use any of the private boxes from VIP box 1 to 10, even if it's reserved by others. In addition, this is also a VIP token of the extreme north island. As long as you spend anything on the extreme north island, you can enjoy a 40% discount." This was a good thing. At least it could provide a lot of convenience. Lin Yi immediately accepted it with a smile, saying, "Thank you, brotherly. It just so happens that I want a private box to participate in the auction. It would be impolite to refuse. You said it yourself. We're brothers, there's nothing much to say. It's just a jade token. If I had to say, this thing isn't even enough to smell the yin and yang pill." Li Ziyu laughed and waved his hand. In just a few words, it was as if he had known Lin Yi for many years. He spoke very casually. Zheng Dongjue saw that Li Ziyu was very happy, so he carefully came over and asked, "Young Island Master, since the matter just now has been settled, do you think our pill hall doesn't need to leave? And my cousin's grandnephew?" Li Ziyu glanced at Lin Yi. If Lin Yi had the intention to let them go, he didn't mind doing him another favor. Unfortunately, Lin Yi turned his head and had no intention of caring about this matter. In this way, Li Ziyu naturally understood what to do. His face immediately darkened and he said, "Your pill hall still has to leave. We'll talk about it when the pill god comes in the future." As for the two of them, they dared to deceive and use this young master. It's already giving them face by not killing them on the spot. You'd better pray for more luck. Chapter 5890. Brotherly, please go ahead. When the island master recovers, I will pay him a visit. Lin Yi smiled and cupped his fists. The island master of the extreme north island was not someone anyone could meet. However, in his opinion, it was very normal. The reason why he paid a visit was because of Li Ziyu. Otherwise, who would be so happy to look for trouble? The two did not continue to talk. Li Ziyu was indeed in a hurry to go home to save the old man. Therefore, he took the yin and yang elixir and left with the northern guard. Zheng Dongjue also left in a daze. He and the people of the Dan Hall could only stay on the extreme north island for one night. If they could not find a solution before dawn, everyone, including Li Ziyu, would be expelled from the extreme north island by the northern guard. If that really happened, his position as the deputy hall master of the Dan Hall would come to an end. He would be drowned by the people of the Dan Hall, even if he did not atone for his sins with his death. Ho Guanqi, who was a good friend of Lin Yi, might be the only one who could stay in the extreme north island. Maybe when he returned, Zheng Dongjue's position as the deputy hall master would be replaced by Ho Guanqi. He could not sit still and wait for death. He had to find a way to reverse the situation. In any case, he had to discuss with Tong Wulsui first. After Li Ziyu returned, he immediately fed the yin and yang elixir to Li Zixiang. After the elixir dissolved, it quickly took effect. Especially this yin and yang elixir was a top-grade elixir. Its effect was even more extraordinary. In less than 30 minutes, Li Zixiang's injury had recovered by 70% to 80%. Seeing that Li Zixiang's breath was becoming more and more stable, Li Ziyu's worries were finally swept away. He was naturally more grateful to Lin Yi. If Lin Yi did not take out the yin and yang elixir, Li Zixiang estimated that he could only hold on for 7 or 8 days at most. For the entire extreme North Island, the island master was an important figure. Even if he did not manage the affairs and cultivated in seclusion all year round, he was still a strong deterrent. If he lost Li Zixiang, Li Ziyu knew that he could not support the extreme North Island. Old man, have you recovered? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Li Ziyu had been guarding his father from the side. When he saw Li Zixiang open his eyes, he immediately moved forward with a smile on his face. However, when he opened his mouth, he forcefully restrained his smile and pretended to be indifferent as he casually asked. Li Zixiang pretended not to see the fleeting smile on his face. This kid had been like this since he was young. He would never tell him what he was thinking. Li Zixiang could only play along. It's all right. I'm more or less healed. Kid, you're pretty good this time. You found the yin and yang pill for me so quickly. You've made some progress. The corners of Li Zixiang's mouth curled into a faint smile, but it quickly disappeared. He spoke with the same indifferent expression. This pair of father and son were the type of people who would die if they didn't put on an act. Fortunately, no outsiders saw them. Otherwise they would definitely treat them as a joke. Li Ziyu snorted twice and said, "Of course. Don't you see who did it? This kind of small matter, I can just casually arrange someone to go out and settle it. Only you would think that it's difficult. Alright, since you're fine, I'll go out and find some friends to play. It's really unlucky. I was originally prepared to be the Island Lord, but it seems that the word Island Lord in front of the title will have to be used for many years. Brat, if you want to be the Island Lord, just say it. At most, I'll be the Island Lord. How about it? Do you want to do it?" Li Zixiang glared at his son, but he was very touched in his heart. Although the yin and yang pill wasn't a heaven-defying pill, because the two main ingredients were very difficult to find, and the refining conditions were also quite harsh, it wasn't something that could be casually arranged by someone. Don't be fooled by Li Ziyu's understatement, as if it was very easy. Li Zixiang knew in his heart that it definitely wasn't that easy. What was even more rare was that Li Ziyu actually brought back a special grade top-grade yin and yang pill. This was the most important thing, because Li Zixiang had been injured for a long time. He had been suppressing and delaying it, causing his injuries to worsen very quickly. If Shang Wani's injuries, which had killed him in 24 hours on the ancient battleship, were 10 points, then Li Zixiang's injuries, which he had suppressed for so long, were already 90 points. Even if Li Ziyu could obtain a top-grade yin and yang pill, it would only allow Li Zixiang to recover 70 to 80%. But he would never have the chance to fully recover. Even if he could survive this time, his lifespan would be greatly shortened. At most, he would only have 10 to 20 years left, not to mention the middle grade. Fortunately, Li Ziyu didn't know where he got the yin and yang pill from. It was actually a top-grade yin and yang pill. Not only did it heal Li Zixiang's injuries, after he recovered, his strength might even improve. This was really a blessing in disguise. Li Ziyu curled his lips in disdain and said, "Old man, you are the Island Lord, but in the end, you are still in charge of me. In the end, I am the scapegoat, and you are the one showing off. TSK, do you really think I'm stupid? I'll just wait slowly. When you are completely finished, then I will justifiably become my Island Lord. Brat, do you believe that I won't beat you up? I am so handsome and elegant. Which eye of yours can see that I look like an old man? In the past I saw that you were young, so I endured it. Now that you are not young, I can't bear it anymore." The agitated Zheng Dongjue did not have time to talk nonsense, so he went straight to the point and immediately asked, "Wulsuo, how do you think we should deal with this matter?" Tong Wulsuo frowned slightly as he paced back and forth in the room. His plan was originally perfect, but for some reason, he kept making mistakes and ended up in such a passive situation. Originally, he wanted to make a fuss about Lin Yi's Wangshan elixir and attack Hou Guanqi's position in the alchemy hall. He did not expect that Hou Guanqi would be fine, but Zheng Dongjue would soon lose his footing in the alchemy hall. After Tong Wulsuo stood still, he bowed slightly to Zheng Dongjue and said, "Deputy Hall Master, this matter can be big or small. Let's not talk about how to save Master Zheng and young Master Zheng. The first thing we need to deal with is how to solve the crisis of our alchemy hall. If the alchemy hall is expelled, Then the reputation of the alchemy hall will be completely destroyed. Even if the hall master does not pursue the matter, it will be impossible for us to continue to stand in the alchemy hall. Zheng Dongjue said impatiently, I know all this. Hurry up and tell me what to do. We don't have much time. If we don't have countermeasures before dawn, we will be completely finished. Tong Wulsuo said unhurriedly. Because of this, we have to deal with it calmly. First of all, Deputy Hall Master, you have to find the connections of Zhongdao and ask them to mediate at all costs. Secondly, Master Li Zhaoyi is also a member of our alchemy hall. Although she was implicated this time, she will also be in trouble if the alchemy hall is in trouble. She also has to come forward for this matter. Zheng Dongjue didn't wait for Tong Wulsuo to finish and interrupted him with a frown. It's not a problem for me to find someone to mediate, but Li Zhaoyi is not someone I can persuade, and if she comes forward, it may not be of much use. Tong Wulsuo lowered his head and explained calmly, Li Zhaoyi's connections may not be as deep as the Deputy Hall Master, but her ability is there. A genius mystic-grade alchemist, there will still be many people who are willing to gain her favor. Moreover, her purpose this time is to participate in the auction. If she doesn't show up, she will be expelled. I think she will know how to weigh the pros and cons. He had to admit that Tong Wulsuo's analysis was very reasonable. Zheng Dongjue thought that his future was dark before. But after listening to him, he suddenly felt that there was still a great chance to save it. Wulsuo, you did a good job. Without further ado, I will go to Li Zhaoyi now, and then visit Steward Song overnight. As long as Steward Song is willing to say a few good words in front of the Li family, maybe it can ease the relationship between us and young island Master Li. After having a countermeasure, Zheng Dongjue immediately wanted to take action. There was not much time for him to waste before dawn. Tong Wulsuo quickly raised his hand to stop Zheng Dongjue and said, Deputy Hall Master, please wait a moment. I haven't finished speaking yet. Say it. Zheng Dongjue realized that he was too eager. He now valued Tong Wulsuo very much, and whether he could turn the situation around was of great importance. He did not dare to make any mistakes, so he looked at Tong Wulsuo very solemnly. Tong Wulsuo sorted out his thoughts that were interrupted just now and said, Vice Hall Master, if Island Master Li didn't get the yin-yang elixir this time, it would be useless for us to do anything. It's because Lin Yi took out the yin-yang elixir that we have a chance to redeem ourselves. Hearing Lin Yi's name, Zheng Dongjue suddenly frowned and said with displeasure, Why, do you think I should thank Lin Yi? Tong Wulsuo smiled bitterly and said, Of course not. What I mean is that after Lin Yi takes out the yin-yang pill, his influence on the Li family in the extreme north will be very great. If we just do what we just discussed, no matter what the final result is, as long as Lin Yi says a word, all our efforts will be in vain. Chapter 5892. If it wasn't for Tong Wulsuo's reminder, Zheng Dongjue really wouldn't have thought of this. Now that he understood, his expression changed. What should we do? With that bastard Lin Yi's personality, he definitely wouldn't give up the chance to kick us when we're down. Therefore, this subordinate is going to talk about the third point. Tong Wulsuo sighed in his heart. His plan had always been to deal with Lin Yi, but now he had to rely on Lin Yi to help him out. As a strategist, it really made him feel disheartened. Vice Head, it's not impossible to ask Lin Yi not to obstruct us, or even say a few good words for us. In the Dan Hall, there are still people who have good relationships with Lin Yi. Not to mention the independent Five Elements Commerce Kai Zhongyang. Just the Dan God's disciple Ho Guanqi is enough for Lin Yi to speak for the Dan Hall. Tong Wulsuo's thoughts were very clear. He wanted to make use of all the people and relationships he could before daybreak. Who cared if they were friends or foes before? Zheng Dongjue felt disgusted as if he had eaten a housefly. Did he have to beg Ho Guanqi to speak for him, as the vice head of the Dan Hall? A long time ago, he and Zhang Liju's disciples were on bad terms, and after Lin Yi appeared, their relationship became even worse. This time, he even tried to plot against Kai Zhongyang and Ho Guanqi. It was fine to ask Li Zhaoyi for help, but asking Ho Guanqi was a bit too much. Tong Wulsuo sighed in his heart. Zheng Dongjue's expression clearly showed what he was thinking. As far as he was concerned, those who did big things didn't care about trifles, and it was necessary to be flexible. In such an emergency, asking Ho Guanqi for help was definitely a good thing. With Ho Guanqi's personality, as long as Zheng Dongjue let go of his arrogance, there was a high chance that he would ask Lin Yi for the Dan Hall. Zheng Dongjue didn't say anything, so Tong Wulsuo could only speak up himself. Vicehead, I know Ho Guanqi. Why don't you let me do this? In fact, the most effective way would be for Zheng Dongjue to do it himself. Tong Wulsuo came here in secret, and he would try not to show himself if he could. Tong Wulsuo's identity meant that he wouldn't have many interactions with Ho Guanqi. Unfortunately, Zheng Dongjue wasn't a responsible man, so there was nothing he could do. Hearing Tong Wulsuo's suggestion, Zheng Dongjue actually breathed a sigh of relief and nodded. All right, then I'll leave Ho Guanqi to you. I'll go ask Li Zhaoyi myself. Is there anything else? If not, we'll split up. If it weren't for the fact that Tong Wulsuo's identity wasn't enough to talk to Li Zhaoyi directly, Zheng Dongjue might have let him do this as well. Tong Wulsuo wondered if he was lucky or unlucky to be following a master like this. No matter what, the decision was made now. The two didn't say much and split up to find their own targets. We've been old friends for many years, and we might not have the opportunity to meet each other in the future. Before we part, we should have a good gathering. Steward Song smiled as he retracted his hand and put away the spiritual jade card that was worth 500,000 spiritual jade without anyone noticing. Someone, bring some tea for Deputy Hall Master Zheng, and more spiritual fruits and pastries. Why don't you have any eyesight? You're all trash. Steward Song raised his voice and said to the attendant outside the door. Then he said politely to Zheng Dongjue, Deputy Hall Master Zheng, please take a seat. Don't blame me for neglecting you. We've been old friends for many years. Let's have a good chat about the past. We might not have the opportunity to do so in the future. Zheng Dongjue's heart was filled with hatred. He knew that this old thing meant that the spiritual jade card was only enough for him to have a cup of tea and some pastries. Then, everyone could reminisce about the past. As for other matters, he didn't have to say it out loud. Fortunately, Zheng Dongjue also knew that this old thing with the surname Song was someone who was greedy for money. As long as there was spiritual jade, he would be willing to help. He thought to himself, what kind of friendship are you looking at? I have to charge 500,000 spirit jades to eat some trash tea and snacks. You old thing. You are simply black from the bottom of your heart. However, he also understood that the surname Song would definitely not help him meet Li Ziyu. No matter how much spirit jades he offered, it wouldn't be of any use. Without a choice, Zheng Dongjue could only settle for the next best thing. He cupped his fists and pleaded, Brother Song, then please help me pass a message to the young island master. Perhaps the young island master will change after hearing it. Steward Song calculated in his heart. This matter didn't matter, so he nodded and said, Tell me about it first. If it isn't any bad news, I will definitely help you as a brother. If he had such a brother, Zheng Dongjue felt that he would be better off being a lone star. After looking around, Zheng Dongjue apologized and approached Steward Song. He whispered in his ear, Brother Song, actually, the person who came from our pill hall is Master Li Zhaoyi. When the inaudible voice entered Steward Song's ears, his expression changed slightly. He asked solemnly, Is what you said true? It's absolutely true. Zheng Dongjue was equally solemn. He originally wanted to do as Tong Wulsui said, and persuade Li Zhaoyi to come forward and ask for help. However, he felt that there was no need to go through so much trouble now, because he, Zheng Dongjue, knew a piece of information that even Tong Wulsui didn't know. He reckoned that after Li Ziyu heard it, he would definitely consider it carefully. All right, I understand this matter. I will go find the young island master now. Brother Zheng, you go back first and wait for my news. Steward Song swept away his previous lazy look, and his entire aura became sharp. After he finished speaking, Steward Song ordered his men to close the door and reject all guests. He would not be receiving anyone today. Zheng Dongjue hurriedly got up and cupped his fists. In that case, I will go back and wait for Brother Song's good news. Goodbye. After returning, Zheng Dongjue went to look at Li Zhaoyi's residence again. Whether it was to ask for her help to find someone, or her information was leaked, he had to mention it subtly first. Unfortunately, Li Zhaoyi still didn't return. As for Tong Wulsui, he also didn't return. Zheng Dongjue didn't know if his matter with Ho Guanqi was successful. It had been a long time, so there should be news from him by now. Zheng Dongjue suppressed his anxiety and paced back and forth in the room for about half an hour. After that, a Northern Army guard rushed to him and informed him, "The young island master wants you to go there immediately." Zheng Dongjue was overjoyed. He knew that Steward Song had brought the message. The 1.5 million spiritual jades were worth it. As for whether to ask or invite him over, who would care about such a trivial matter? Zheng Dongjue followed the Northern Army Guard to the Li family's residence. He had simulated how to deal with it countless times, but he still didn't have much confidence in himself. Suddenly, he felt a little regretful. He should have told Tong Wulsui the news before. At least, Tong Wulsui would know how to make better use of the news, and how to answer Li Ziyu's questions. Unfortunately, it was too late now. After arriving at the Li family's residence, someone naturally brought Zheng Dongjue to the living room to see Li Ziyu. After Zheng Dongjue crossed the threshold and confirmed Li Ziyu's position, he quickly lowered his head and bowed respectfully. He cupped his fists and greeted, "Zheng Dongjue greets the young island master." If the dignified deputy hall master of the alchemy division was seen bowing and scraping, the reputation of the alchemy division would probably be no better than being expelled from the extreme North Island. Steward Song stood by the side and looked down, pretending not to see Zheng Dongjue. As for Li Ziyu, he sat on the host's seat and waved his hand lazily. "There's no need for formalities. You should know why I called you here, right? Thank you for your advice, young island master. I am very grateful." Zheng Dongjue slightly straightened his body, still looking down and maintaining a humble posture. Chapter 5894. Zheng Dongjue hurriedly bowed again and cupped his fists. He vowed solemnly, "Young island master, don't worry. What I said is true. If there is anything that I have deceived young island master, I am willing to be cut into pieces and die." Li Ziyu nodded. It seemed that this old man was not lying, since he was willing to make such a vicious oath. "I need to tell my old man about this. You guys wait here." Li Ziyu did what he thought. He turned around and went in. Zheng Dongjue wanted to thank Steward Song, but seeing that he had no intention of moving, he probably didn't want to have any communication with Zheng Dongjue here. So the two fell into silence and stood quietly in the living room, waiting for Li Ziyu to come back. Li Ziyu ran to the room where Li Zaixiang was in seclusion. He pushed the door open and said, "Old man, I have something to talk to you about." "Brat, don't you know how to knock before coming in? Do you want me to go crazy again?" Li Zaixiang glared and scolded, but he didn't care at all. Li Ziyu knew that he had just recovered and wouldn't cultivate again for a while. If he really encountered him in seclusion, Li Ziyu would never do this. "If you are so easy to go crazy, then you should just die. Let me ascend to the position of island master as soon as possible, so that I don't have to help you find elixirs to save your life all day." Li Ziyu didn't care and talked nonsense. In the outside world, which Sun dared to talk to his father like this, he would have been punished 100 times. Li Zaixiang scolded with a smile. "Brat, you only know how to think about the position of island master all day long. Hurry up, don't talk nonsense. Finish the business and get lost." "TSK, do you think this young master wants to come to your broken place?" Li Ziyu looked at him with disdain. Then he briefly explained the matter of the Zheng family and Lin Yi. Li Zaixiang finally understood that the process of obtaining the yin-yang pill was a rather complicated one. But it was still a good thing. If it weren't for the Yang pole grass and Yin core fruit being refined into a Yin Yang pill by Lin Yi, it wouldn't have been easy for him to obtain a special quality Yin Yang pill. It was just a stalk of extreme Yang grass and a core Yin fruit. Even if the alchemists of the extreme North Island were able to successfully refine them, the quality could not be guaranteed. Brat, you've handled things pretty well. Although you're a little too lenient, it's still the eve of the auction. It's good enough that no lives are lost. After Li Zixiang finished listening, he lightly commented, if it was him, the island lord, Zheng Dongxing and Zheng Tianqing's bones would have already turned cold. How could they be so lucky to be locked up in prison and waste food? However, he was very satisfied with Li Ziyu's way of dealing with it. The extreme North Island was always a money-squandering place. It was necessary to maintain a good relationship with all forces. A benevolent island lord might not have enough deterrence, but it was enough to maintain the prosperity of the extreme North Island. Old man, are you listening to what I'm saying? I'm not asking you to comment on what I've done. I'm talking about the Hall of Elixirs. Li Ziyu said with a face of dissatisfaction. But in his heart, he was laughing at his father's small compliment. Li Zixiang laughed, and his aura slowly rose. It's just a small vice head of the Hall of Elixirs. It doesn't matter how we deal with him. Even if Zhang Liju came personally, he'd have to be polite to us, the extreme Northly House. Who does that Zheng guy think he is? Just kill him and feed him to the dogs. Li Ziyu rolled his eyes. Old man, can't you be more serious? Don't bring up that idiot Zheng, okay? I'm talking about the disciple of the pill saint. Are you really going to kick him out? Isn't that too disrespectful to the pill god Zhang Liju? Dumb kid, don't you know what to do? What's there to ask? But if the girl you're talking about is really Zhang Liju's disciple, I can let her diagnose me and see if my injuries can be healed. Li Zixiang smiled. He indeed wasn't afraid of Zhang Liju, but there was no need to offend him. Li Ziyu was startled. The old man's injuries hadn't healed yet? Your injuries haven't healed yet? Even the special Yin Yang pill can't heal you? Li Ziyu was panicking inside, but on the surface he pretended that he didn't care. Only when he spoke, there was a slight tremble that even he himself didn't notice. It completely revealed his feelings. Li Zixiang, on the other hand, could tell that he felt warmth in his heart. He laughed loudly. Don't worry, I won't pass the island master position to you so soon. If you want to take over, you'll have to wait. Let that girl have a look. It's mainly some old injuries from the past, and some hidden injuries from training. If she really is the disciple of the pill saint, then these small problems can naturally be healed. TSK, I'm young and strong, can't I wait? What a joke. Li Ziyu waved his hand in disdain, but in his heart, he was greatly relieved. As long as it wasn't the injuries from the previous cultivation deviation, it would be fine. Li Zixiang waved his hand. All right, go ask that girl to have a look. After that, you can do whatever you want with the elixir hall. Don't worry. After a slight pause, Li Zixiang reminded, no matter what you're planning to do, it's best to inform the elixir master Lin Yi. To be able to create a special Yin Yang pill by himself. This person is definitely not simple. He might even be the next Zhang Liju. It's best to be able to get to know someone like this. And from what you've said, he's also an extremely good friend. Remember, people who work for benefits can betray each other at any time. So, you have to make friends with people like him sincerely. Don't try to tie him down with some benefits. Damn, old man, you're getting more and more naggy. Do I need you to teach me how to make friends? Don't look down on me, okay? Li Ziyu interrupted impatiently, but in his heart, he felt that what the old man said was very reasonable. Otherwise, he wouldn't have waited until he was almost done before interrupting. Li Zixiang paused slightly, then smiled faintly. Indeed, his son was already grown up. No matter what, he had to let him think and decide by himself. The future island master of the extreme North Island wasn't a puppet without his own thoughts. As a father, all he had to do was to silently watch his son's growth. When the time was right, he would help him get rid of some troubles that shouldn't appear around him. Chapter 5895. Back in the living room, Steward Song and Zheng Dongjue were still in the same posture as when Li Ziyu left. After Li Ziyu sat down, he said to Steward Song, "Uncle Song, why are you still standing? I already said that you don't need to be restrained at home. Hurry up and sit, otherwise, if the old man finds out, he will beat me up." Steward Song laughed and said, "Young master, you don't have to worry about me. I'm used to standing. Sitting is uncomfortable. My arms and legs are old, it's better to stand more." "Uncle Song, how are you old? You look much younger than my old man," Li Ziyu said with a laugh, and no longer cared about him. Steward Song was the steward of the northernmost island. At the same time, he was also the steward of the Li family. Although he was still a servant, Li Ziyu had never treated him as a servant. He had always been very upright. Wherever the Li family was, he, as a steward, would never sit down, no matter how many times he said it. Li Ziyu was also used to it. Anyway, he would say it every time. It would be strange if he didn't say it. He turned to look at Zheng Dongjue and said, "Deputy Hall Master Zheng, my old man said that he is still a little uncomfortable. If what you said before is true, then let the successor of the divine pill medical sage, Li Zawi, come and treat my old man. Whether it is true or false, we will know after a test. If it is false, you know the consequences." Zheng Dongjue quickly bowed and said, "No problem. I will go back and find Master Li Zawi to diagnose Island Master Li. Young Island Master, please wait for a moment." At this time, of course, he would not be stupid to talk about any conditions. As long as Li Zawi could cure Li Zaixiang, then everything before would naturally be written off. Moreover, this was much better than letting Li Zawi appear in public and use a favor in exchange for a chance to plead. Zheng Dongjue couldn't help but praise his wit. After Zheng Dongjue left, Li Ziyu got up and said to Steward Song, "Uncle Song, I have to go out. You wait here. If Zheng Dongjue and the others come, you can directly bring that girl to find my old man. I should be back soon." "Yes, young master." Steward Song bowed respectfully and agreed. He did not ask where Li Ziyu was going, or what he was going to do. He played his role as a servant to the extreme. Li Ziyu nodded. As he walked out, he didn't forget to say, "Uncle Song, if you have nothing to do, just sit for a while and drink some tea. Don't keep standing, it makes me tired." "Yes, young master, I understand." When Li Ziyu went out, of course, he went to find Lin Yi. Originally, he could let someone bring a message for such a trivial matter, or he could write a letter clearly stating the reason and ask someone to send it. As the dignified young island master of the extreme North Island, there was no need for him to personally make a trip for such a trivial matter. However, he remembered his old man's words. Although there was still the will of heaven on the middle island, it was really hard to guard against him alone. Especially when Han Jingjing's primordial spirit had not returned, he could not make the slightest mistake. In that case, it was more reassuring to keep them under his eyes. Anyway, they were just a few insignificant minions. There was nothing to worry about. If there was a chance, it would be more convenient to get rid of them. Brother Li is a truly benevolent and righteous person. Since the punishment of the pill hall has been cancelled, we might as well let them go, lest there is any gossip outside. Anyway, they are just a few insignificant people. It doesn't matter. Lin Yi said with a smile. In his heart, he was guessing how much Zheng Dongjue had paid to make Li Ziyu change his mind. However, Li Ziyu personally came to ask Lin Yi for such a small matter, which made him very touched. This young island master was really a good friend. Lin Yi remembered it in his heart. In my opinion, only by using the recovery pill and the acupuncture technique of alloy needles, in conjunction with treatment, will we have an 80% chance of removing these hidden dangers. Li Zaixiang clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Master Li Zawi is really amazing. You can see my injuries so easily. To be honest, even I don't know it so well. Since Master Li Zawi has a treatment plan, there should be no problem with the treatment, right?" Before Li Zawi could speak, Li Zixiang said in surprise. Wait, Master Li Zhaoyi is talking about recovery pill? Can this kind of elixir really be refined? Master Li, it seems that you have heard of recovery pill? Li Zhaoyi was not surprised. As the owner of the extreme North Island, it was not surprising that he knew about this kind of unorthodox elixir. Since you know about recovery pill, it's more convenient to talk about it. Li Zixiang sighed softly and said, if it's recovery pill, I'm afraid it won't be easy. The Li family in the extreme north has also collected this prescription, so I know the difficulty very well. Although Master Li Zhaoyi is here, I don't think he can refine it, right? Li Ziyu hadn't seen the prescription of recovery pill, so he asked curiously, Old man, is the level of recovery pill very high? Is it a level 6 or 7 pill of the profound grade? Or is the main ingredient too rare? Li Zhaoyi explained, the level of recovery pill is not high. It's just a level 1 pill of the profound grade, barely touching the threshold of level 2 of the profound grade. The main ingredient is also okay. It needs 2 kinds of best quality pills. One is the level 1 Jinfu Dan, and the other is the level 7 special quality Great Recover pill. In addition, other auxiliary elixirs are very easy to get. Li Ziyu couldn't help but take a deep breath. How could this girl say these words so casually? What did she mean by the main ingredient was also okay? Was it so easy to get the 7th grade Great Recover pill, and the Jinfu Dan of the best quality, ordinary medium, or even superior grade Great Recover pill were very common, but the special quality of the best quality Great Recover pill was very rare, not to mention the Jinfu Dan. Even the superior quality was very difficult to see. After a slight pause, Li Zhaoyi continued. In fact, the most troublesome thing about the recovery pill is the refining. This is the same as the yin yang pill. It needs 2 people to cooperate in the refining. Fortunately, it doesn't need a man and a woman like the yin yang pill. But the ability of these 2 alchemists must be extremely strong. Without the ability to multitask, it is absolutely impossible to successfully refine. Li Zixiang asked with interest, Master Li Zhaoyi, can you tell me in detail? Although I have the recipe here, I don't know much about this aspect. Li Zhaoyi nodded slightly and said, Don't worry, Island Master Li. I originally wanted to explain. To refine the recovery pill, first 2 alchemists need to refine and decompose 2 kinds of best quality pills at the same time. Then control the appropriate elixir liquid to fuse with the others. Not only can there be no mistakes during the decomposition, but the amount of the fusion must also be equal to the others. As long as there is a little difference, it is very likely to lead to the failure of the alchemy. I'm already being lenient by saying that they can multitask. In fact, it's not impossible to say that they can multitask 3 times. Li Zixiang shook his head and said, It seems that my injury really can't be cured. Let's forget about this matter. Although Li Zhaoyi didn't say it, Li Zixiang could vaguely guess that if the 2 of them were so distracted in refining the recovery pill, the slightest carelessness was likely to cause a backlash, so he couldn't force them. In terms of difficulty, this recovery pill was comparable to the 3rd, or even 4th grade of the mystic level. However, because 2 mystic level 1 alchemists could successfully refine the recovery pill, they might not be able to refine the 2nd grade of the mystic level alone, so it was still counted as a mystic level 1 pill. Chapter 5897. Master Li Zhao, you must have a way, right? With your level of alchemy, as long as you can find a partner, you should be able to successfully refine the recovery pill, right? Li Ziyu didn't bother to hide his feelings, and asked quickly. Li Zhaoyi nodded faintly and said, If someone can cooperate with me, of course there is no problem. As for the 7th grade recovery pill, and the recovery pill, as long as there are materials, I can also refine them. However, as long as Island Master Li is willing to pay, you should be able to buy these 2 pills. She said this because she knew that Lin Yi had helped people refine the recovery pill on the ancient battleship. Although he didn't reveal the quality of the pill, Li Zhaoyi naturally believed that it was a special grade recovery pill. After all, in the restaurant later, all the pills that Lin Yi took out were of special grade, without exception. Thinking of Lin Yi, Li Zhaoyi subconsciously said to Li Zaixiang, "As for the candidate for alchemy besides me, there is another very suitable candidate. Island Master and young Island Master should be familiar with him. And that is Lin Yi." If Zheng Dongjue hadn't told Li Zhaoyi in detail, she might not have known that Li Ziyu and the others knew about Lin Yi. Now that there was the supreme grade yin and yang pill in front of her, Li Zaixiang and Li Ziyu would definitely not refuse if she mentioned Lin Yi. Sure enough, Li Ziyu clapped his hands and said, "That's right. Lin Yi's alchemy level is also extremely high. If he and Master Li Zhao cooperate, it will be very easy to refine the recovery pill." Li Zaixiang also nodded secretly. It was not strange that Li Zhaoyi and Lin Yi knew each other. They were all on the same boat. It seemed that the two of them had a good relationship. In this case, it was necessary to write off the matter of the pill haul. Li Ziyu also had the same thought. He was also wondering if Lin Yi did not pursue the matter at the pill hall because of Li Zhaoyi. However, he did not know that Lin Yi did not care about the Zheng family at all. If you can persuade Lin Yi to help you concoct pills, then Island Master Li's chances of recovery will be very high. If he is unwilling, then forget it. I will use the golden needle acupuncture technique to recuperate for Island Master Li. Although I can't cure those old and hidden injuries, it will make you feel better. Li Ziyi said calmly, and then looked at Li Ziyu, meaning that he could go find Lin Yi quickly. Li Ziyu slapped his forehead. He was really busy today. If he had known earlier, he would have brought Lin Yi along. There was no other way. He could only continue to run for the fourth time. Lin Yi had just read a book in the room for a while when he found that young Island Master Li Ziyu, had arrived again. Without waiting for him to go out to welcome him, Li Ziyu directly knocked on the door and came in. "Brother Lin, I'm sorry to disturb you again. Today, I'm here to ask for your help. Please don't decline." Li Ziyu came up and grabbed Lin Yi's arm, saying a lot of things. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, "Brother Li, feel free to speak up. I will definitely not decline if I can help. Why don't you tell me what's the matter first?" Li Ziyu's face was beaming with joy. He gave Lin Yi a thumbs up and said, "Good brother, good friend. Come, follow me first. I'll tell you in detail on the way." After saying that, he did not allow Lin Yi to object and pulled him out. As he walked, he explained the ins and outs of the matter to Lin Yi. A regeneration pill refined with 2 kinds of medicinal pills as the main ingredients? There is such a medicinal pill? Lin Yi was very surprised when he heard Li Ziyu's method of refining the regeneration pill. He really had never heard of such a prescription. Alchemy was really magical. There were still too many things to learn. Li Ziyu did not have much research on alchemy. He could only repeat it, but he could not discuss the problem of the prescription with Lin Yi. He could only laugh and said, "Brother Lin's ability in alchemy is beyond doubt. This time, I want to ask you to cooperate with Master Li Zhao to refine the regeneration pill to treat my old man." "Brother Li, you flatter me. I still have to look at the prescription to know if I can refine it. If I can help, I will definitely not decline." Lin Yi knew his own situation. How could he really refine the pill? Without the automatic alchemy system, he couldn't even refine the first grade of the yellow level, let alone the first grade of the mystic level. Cooperating with Li Zhao to refine the pill was courting death. However, the prescription of the regeneration pill could be used for research. Maybe he could refine it by himself, just like refining the yin and yang pill. Since he regarded Li Ziyu as a friend, he certainly had to help him. Li Ziyu felt that it was normal that Lin Yi did not take on everything. If it were him, he would not say anything about a guarantee when the situation was unclear. Because of this, it seemed that Lin Yi was very serious. The two soon came to the room where Li Zaixiang was in seclusion. Li Zhaoyi sat calmly on the side. When she saw Lin Yi coming over, she nodded to him. Lin Yi knew that she might be his senior or junior sister, so he also nodded politely in response. Junior Lin Yi greets the island master. Seeing Li Zaixiang, he knew that he was Li Ziyu's father. It was not that they looked similar, but the temperament was exactly the same. Lin Yi regarded Li Ziyu as a friend, so Li Zaixiang was naturally his senior, so his greeting was also very respectful. "Ha ha ha, nephew Lin is indeed a man of striking appearance. Since you are friends with this stinking brat, You don't have to be so polite. I will call you nephew. But if you don't mind, you can call me uncle. Li Zixiang did not put on airs at all. Chapter 5898. Uncle Li, I can't be sure if I can refine the recovery pill. Brother Li said that you have the recipe for the recovery pill. Can you show me the specific content of the recipe first? Lin turned around and said to Li Zixiang with his fists cupped. No matter who made the proposal, Lin couldn't agree. He came to see the recipe for the recovery pill and then go back to study it with the Shinnong cauldron. Li Zixiang was prepared. He picked up a roll of parchment on the side and handed it to Lin Yi. This is the recipe for the recovery pill. Nephew Lin, please take it. I already have a copy here. Keep it well. I don't dare to refuse an elder's gift. Thank you, Uncle Li. Lin Yi didn't act pretentious. Anyway, seeing it was equivalent to taking it. Regardless of whether he could successfully refine the pill or not, this recipe would always be his. It was fine as long as he felt grateful. After taking the parchment with both hands, Lin Yi opened it on the spot and looked at it carefully. Sure enough, the main ingredients were exactly the same as what Li Ziyu had told him. The only difference was the detailed proportion. After a while, Lin Yi put away the recipe and smiled slightly. Uncle Li, I have never come into contact with this recipe. After a rough look, I already feel that there are many mysteries in it, so I have to go back and study it carefully. For the time being, it is impossible to refine this recovery pill. Li Zixiang waved his hand indifferently. It's okay. You can study it. In fact, my injuries have been for many years. There is no hurry at all. It doesn't matter even if it takes another year or so. What's more, we don't have the best quality recovery pill and the 7th grade recovery pill, so you don't have to have any psychological pressure. Lin Yi had both the best quality recovery pill and the 7th grade recovery pill, but he wasn't sure if he could refine the recovery pill. There was no need to say it now. Lin Yi smiled and nodded. Uncle Li, don't worry. As long as I have the confidence to refine the recovery pill, I will inform you immediately. I will give you an answer before the end of the auction. Li Zhaoyi looked at Lin Yi as if she wanted to say something. In the end, she just opened her mouth and still didn't speak. After chatting for a bit more, Lin Yi excused himself to study the recipe and got up to leave. Li Zhaoyi also said goodbye. Li Ziyu sent the two to the door and went back alone. He could tell that Li Zhaoyi had something to say to Lin Yi, so he didn't stay and disturb them. After Ziyu returned, Li Zhaoyi immediately said to Lin Yi, Lin Yi, this time you won't say you want to refine the recovery pill alone, right? Lin Yi shrugged. What's wrong with that? I admit that you are indeed a genius in alchemy. You can even refine the yin and yang pill, but the recovery pill is completely different. Even if you can multitask and do the work of two people, it is still impossible for you to refine the recovery pill alone. Li Zhaoyi's expression was very serious. When it came to alchemy, she could always put her heart and soul into it. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, whether you can refine it by yourself or not, it's not up to you to decide. If you want to find someone to cooperate with, you can ask Li Ziyu to help you find one. I think there should be a suitable alchemist in the northern island who can cooperate with you. Li Zhaoyi was not angered by Lin Yi's obvious rejection. She said solemnly, I'm not joking with you. I can do 3 things at once, but it's not enough to concoct a recovery pill. The amount of mental energy and junqi needed is not something you can imagine. Do you think you can use pills to recover when you're halfway through the process? As long as there is even the slightest fluctuation, the entire furnace of pills will be completely ruined. What's more serious is that the furnace will explode. Can you imagine how dangerous it is for the furnace to explode when the true qi is exhausted? Lin Yi was not worried about the true qi. He had a steady supply of it in the space of the jade pendant, so there was no need to worry about it at all. However, it was rare for Li Zhaoyi to speak so much at once, so he could not be too unreasonable. Thank you for your reminder. I will pay attention. Linny casually clasped his hands, thanked her, and turned to leave. Li Xiaoyi was suddenly angry. How could this person be like this? She had already told him so clearly. Did he still want to refine pills by himself? Hey, are you listening to me carefully? Li Xiaoyi stomped her feet hard and stepped forward to stop Lin Yi. Her face, which had always been calm, also showed a hateful expression. Lin Yi was slightly stunned and said, "Didn't I say I would pay attention? Thank you for reminding me again. Now I have to go back. Is there anything else?" Li Xiaoyi was instantly speechless. She really wanted to beat up Lin Yi, but not to mention whether she could beat him. There did not seem to be a reason to do so. Seeing that she did not speak, Lin Yi waved his hand and went around to continue on his way. Other things were not important. It was more important to hurry back and study the elixir recipe of the regeneration pill. This time, Li Xiaoyi did not continue to chase after him. Lin Yi quickly returned to the cross-courtyard of the Five Elements Commerce. Kai Zhongyang, Wei Shenjin, and Hou Guanqi were all waiting for him. Just now, Li Ziyu directly pulled Lin Yi away, and they were still a little worried. Lin Yi briefly explained the situation and let them go back. There was no need to think too much. The matter of the pill haul had been resolved, and the two from the Zheng family had also been released. Everything was back to square one. This was not bad. After returning to his room, Lin Yi set up a restriction, took out the Shinnon cauldron, and entered the elixir recipe of the regeneration pill into the automatic alchemy system. Discovered an unknown elixir recipe. Analysis showed abnormalities. Unable to generate elixir recipe. Please confirm the accuracy of the elixir recipe. The automatic alchemy system calculated for a long time and finally came to this conclusion. Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he picked up the elixir recipe of the regeneration pill. It seemed that there was nothing to confirm. The elixir recipe must be real. However, using 2 elixirs as the main ingredient was indeed very strange. No wonder the automatic alchemy system could not identify it. After carefully checking that there were no errors or omissions in the input of the elixir recipe, Lin Yi was a little unwilling to give up and started the automatic alchemy system again. He thought to himself, could this AI system have undergone its own evolution between the 2 analyses? Just like every time he refined elixir, it would summarize and modify the previous elixir, so that each time it could be closer to perfection. It was because of this function that Lin Yi was able to create so many pills of the highest quality. Unfortunately, the analysis didn't work. Unfortunately, analyzing elixir recipes and refining elixirs were obviously not the same thing. The automatic alchemy system did not have this function to upgrade. Chapter 5899. Since he couldn't refine the recovery pill, Lin Yi could only put away the Shinnon cauldron and continue to study the ancient books he bought. Soon the night passed. "Boss, is it convenient for you now?" After dawn, Wei Shenjin came to see Lin Yi early. He didn't know what happened. Lin Yi put away his things and opened the door to ask, "What's the matter?" Wei Shenjin shook his head and said, "Boss, it's not me. Li Xiaoyi from Alchemy Hall is here. She's waiting outside the door. She didn't say who she was looking for. I guess she was looking for you. So I came to ask if you wanted to let her in." Lin Yi scanned with his divine sense and found Li Xiaoyi standing outside the door. If it weren't for the fact that she'd changed her clothes, he would have thought that this weird girl had been waiting outside the whole night. "I'll go and have a look. You can go and do what you need to do." Lin Yi waved his hand casually and walked out the door. Wei Shenjin scratched his head and thought that there was nothing to do so early in the morning. He might as well go and find Yuhua and stroll around the island in the far north together. Yes, he should tidy himself up first, and then go to find Yuhua. It seemed that the boss was going to accompany Li Xiaoyi, so he could stroll around alone with Yuhua. Lin Yi came to the gate leisurely and waved at Li Xiaoyi. He smiled and said, "What a coincidence. Is Master Li Xiaoyi out for morning exercise?" Li Xiaoyi didn't understand what morning exercise was, and she didn't want to know. Seeing Lin Yi come out, she asked directly, "Lin Yi, have you thought about it? You can't refine the recovery pill alone. We can only succeed if we work together. Uncle Lee said there's no hurry. Why are you in such a hurry? Lenny curled his lips and looked at Li Zowie strangely. He said, also, why do you have to cooperate with me? Didn't I say that if you want to refine the recovery pill, the island in the far north can definitely provide you with suitable candidates? Li Zowie said matter-of-factly, I just want to see how you refine pills. Didn't you say you were the disciple of the elixir god Zhang Liju? I wouldn't want to work with anyone else. Lenny was speechless. So this is the problem. But what's with this chick's expression of I'm giving you face, don't be ungrateful? Just who was it that wanted to collaborate on alchemy? I'm sorry, I'm naturally introverted and shy. I'm not used to concocting pills with others, because I'll feel embarrassed when others look at me. There's no way for me to concoct pills. So collaborating with others to concoct pills is definitely out of the question. Lenny shrugged and casually spouted some nonsense. Li Zowie gritted her teeth and glared at Lenny. She thought to herself, how dare you say you're introverted when you're so thick-skinned? Shyness. Say I'm sorry. There should be a limit to being shameless, right?